Welcome to the Gavin. Welcome to the games. We're going to get started in just 1 second. Let's load up and let everybody get in. And we'll get started. There's some alixplox for you. And then I got a little, I got some questions to ask you guys. Here we go. No, I want the little ting, 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 ting. Fuck you, Bukaki, you're going to hell. Hey, Itchy Tasty Athens. Nice, bud. We'll start the show in just a second. Do you guys see that poll up there on the screen? Will you guys do me a favor and vote in the chat and let me know if that's working? I just want to test something out real quick. But if you don't see it, well, let me know that too. But you should see a Resident Evil poll up there on the screen that says, where does Resident Evil go from here? And you got yourself 4 choices. RE2 style remakes for Veronica Resurrection, Keep Going, Remaster 5 and 6, RE9, no more remakes, or remake Resident Evil 1 like RE2. All right, so okay, so you guys are voting. You can't make it out well on the tally. Let me make it a little bigger. You can't just tell me you got to vote. You got to put the exclamation point and then type what it says. I just want to test this as a little piece of tech, then we'll get started with the show. All right, I'm going to close the poll. You don't see the poll? It's right there on the screen. All right, here we go. Close the poll. Poll has been closed. Now let's see. All right, that's going to take some work. Who knows? Who fuck it. Let's move on. We'll get that working tomorrow, but for now, it's important for you to understand this. Come on now, here we go. Welcome to Cabinet Games. I appreciate you helping me test that out. Appreciate you being here for, what is it, the 28th? The 28th of May. Good to see everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for spending some time with me talking about the video game news of the day. Yeah, I know YouTube has polls like that, but the ones on Streamlabs are a bit more robust, and so I was hoping we could make that work. However, it seems that may not be in the cards. It is what it is, my tiny human being friends. Okay, listen, before we get rolling, you goddamn son of a bitch. Digital Diarrhea says, vote for my poll. You're going to hell, sir, along with Bukaki. So, listen, real quick. I want to let you guys know, Shaboy Hybrid has decided to step up and become a member of the Diet Soda Soldiers. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate your support. My good newest best friend. Thank you, sir. In fact, you know what? You know what you need, sir? This is for Chaboy. Here you go. This is a little bit of Diet Coke and love in the pipe for you there, buddy. That's for you. Leave it alone, Bukaki. That's for Chaboy. There you go, baby. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Listen. If you're curious, before we get rolling, I want to let you know that, blue does look great on me, Nikki T, and I'll tell you what, blue doesn't just look great on me. My Day One Patch Kids Twisted Metal shirt looks great on me. Look at that goddamn thing from Rotten Tanuki. I finally got my shirt. So excited. I love it. It's comfy. It's cozy. It's good, people. And as you may know, in California, when March hits, it pretty much feels like, October felt for most people. So it's good to have a sweatshirt to put on that I like. So anyway, listen, let us get started with the news because there is a lot of shite going on. First, I do want to tell you, the show doesn't exist. The show could not be possible without some of these, all of you guys contributing, your super chats, your memberships, your time. I appreciated it. Sitting up there at the top of the food chain, looking down on all you peasants, though, are the God of War tier members: Gravity, Logan the Lurker, Captain Geach, Rotten Tanuki, Zach Procrastinates, alixplox. Thank you guys very, very much. Much appreciated for keeping the show rolling. Bukaki Drive-By is looking at my Day One Patch Kid shirt, which is created by our very own Rotten Tanuki, and he says, hey, can we get a bigger graphic on the shirt, or is it because you have a big fat guy size? Number one, it's staggering the amount of hate I can generate for you on a daily basis. It's bizarre. I didn't know I was capable. Number two, you know what, man? I'll tell you, I don't know if I'm inspired to do anything about it, but I was watching some event yesterday. I don't know what it was, some red carpet nonsense. Kevin Smith, my God, that man looks good. I mean, I don't mean like his face. His face looks like one of those people that went on a protein-only diet, which is fine. I'm not mocking the guy. I'm just saying, but his body now, there was like a side profile shot. I'm like, that's Kevin Smith? That motherfucker looks like Will Smith in terms of like willowy body and shit. Very impressive. Good for you, Kevin. I'm glad you're still here. God, that was close, huh? Okay, listen, let's talk about video games. All right, now, here's what I've been playing because it's important. It's important. And the mods, of course, right, Rob? The mods look down on everybody. Well, that's true, of course. I've been playing a little bit of this. This is dead on arrival. I hate to say it. Hyenas has been in sort of a beta or an open alpha, closed alpha for a while. Now it's pretty much anyone can sign up for the alpha. It's running for the next 5 or 4 days. I don't know, fellas. This one, I mean, it's got a lot of interesting things about it. But boy, it just doesn't stick to your bones. It talks about zero-G combat. I've seen zero-G combat done much, much better. It's not all zero-G. It's like Lawbreakers. You have to kind of get into the zones. It's okay. But again, this is one of those fucking things that they've spent gobs of cash on, and you look at it and you're like, guys, you could have fucking made this in, hang on. You could have made this, let me turn it down for a second. You could have made this in Roblox. I'm not going to turn it down because there's no volume on this thing. You could have made this in Roblox and you would have known within 6 months if this game was sticky or not. So this is this is Hyenas. Your mileage may vary. It's not a badly made game or anything like that. And it has a nice visual look to it. That's what visuals do, Jeff. They have a look. It has a nice look to it. It just is like, you know, doesn't differentiate itself at all. And the ways it tries are not that compelling. Did Ubisoft, says Sebastian, do a video game, a VR game like this last generation? Honestly, I can't keep them. I can't keep them in mind. I don't know which one is which. Bukaki says Kevin Smith is a vegetarian now, very low testosterone, bordering on gay, to be honest. I think it's why he cries after every Marvel product he watches. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is, yeah. Welcome to Gavin Games, folks. Listen, I was also trying to play MLB The Show, which is out today. It's sitting at, I think, a 75 or an 80 on the Metacritic. I'm excited about it, but for some reason, my Xbox is acting up. My Xbox is saying it's having a hard time, even though it's totally online, it's having a hard time connecting to the internet. So I got to figure that out. I'll be playing this maybe tonight, but I will be streaming something tonight. I'm not sure exactly what that is. But yeah, this is MLB The Show that's out today. Let's refresh the Metacritic. Sitting at a 70. No, now jumped to an 80. It jumped to an 80. Not too shabby. One Winged Angel says it's the Red Ring of Death making a return. I don't really think that's what it is. I think it is something called a... I looked this up earlier. It's like a UPnP or something. It's just like a setting, and I've kind of got that kind of sort of fucked up. But anyway, yeah, this is out. It jumped to an 80. I'm super excited to play this because it's got co-op. It's got the Negro Leagues, which I feel incredibly uncomfortable using that word, but that's literally the name of it. And that sounds awesome. So I will be giving this a play very, very soon. Legends, have you heard of the trans Christian shooting? I'll tell you what, let's talk video games right now. If you guys want to talk a little bit of politics and whatnot, we can do that at the end of the show, because I certainly, as you imagine, have things to say. But right now, I don't think that is the appropriate time to get into that tragic story all around. So, thank you, Nomad Soul. Nomad Soul says, the gaming industry have completely forgotten how to make original and unique games. All of Jaffe's games were unique and original. Nomad Soul, that's kind. I appreciate it, but it's spoken like a fella who only plays console games and doesn't really play the indie games that are on the console. So what I will say is I appreciate that, but I don't know if I totally agree. Let's talk about the skeleton in the room. Yes, I mean, because it's rotting and decaying. E3, my God, what is happening? What is happening? E3, I mean, it's not kind of funny, but it's funny in that, funny's the wrong word because that's mean. I don't want to see anybody fail, but it's fascinating. Let's use that one. It's fascinating to watch this thing that was trying to make a comeback all within the course of a week just begin to implode. IGN has learned that SEGA and Tencent are skipping E3 now. Now, this comes after yesterday when Ubisoft came out and said, yeah, we're not going either. So we know SEGA, I mean, we know Sony isn't there. We know Nintendo's not there. We know Microsoft's there in that they're across the street doing their own little shindig, but they're not going to be at the E3 show floor. Now Ubisoft backed out, SEGA backed out, Tencent backed out, and one other one backed out as well. Listen to this, though. This will start to make sense why this thing is going for the shits and the birds. IGN reporters have spoken with numerous individuals in publishing and PR. They got told that they hadn't heard of anyone else who was planning to attend the show. Some of these people felt there had been a significant lack of communication from the ESA, that's who runs E3, the Entertainment Software Association, and the organizer of E3 now, which is ReedPop, who should know better because they do PAX, as to what exactly they should expect from the show. Several of these publishers described the situation as one where everyone was waiting for someone else to be the first to jump, but no one was willing to take the leap, and time was running out. As one knowledgeable source put it ahead of the Monday news of Ubisoft's departure, there's no possible way that this show is going to happen. And it is, it goes on to talk about the article on IGN, talks about how in the past, by this point, a lot of this shit, publishers had their stuff locked down. I can assure you, Sony did. I remember working back at Sony, we knew our E3 plans at least at a 10,000 foot view. Forget, probably much more around January. And we were like, okay, this is what we're showing. We got to build a demo for E3. This is, all this shit. The fact that you're going into it 2 months and people still don't know what it is. Come on now. Listen to this. So there's no information. So these publishers have no way to know how much they should spend and what kind of floor space they're going to have and what they're going to be able to do and what the event's going to be. It's insane. We do know that Keighley's Playdays is still happening, which is great. There's a lot of summer shit happening. We have Xbox is doing it. Their showcase on the 11th. We know that Future Game Show is happening. This is what they're saying about Playdays. Several people IGN spoke to confirmed they had games locked in for Playdays, and a few mentioned they expected more games to be present this year than last year. So this will be in June. There's going to be a lot of great news and a lot of great games and a lot of great demos. But as it relates to E3, I think we can kind of put the lid on the coffin and start lowering it into the ground. Sources tell IGN that numerous publishers collaborated with ReedPop on defining exactly what they wanted out of E3. Listen to this. Let me read that again. It's important because it's like, who's to blame for this? Listen to this. Sources told IGN that numerous publishers collaborated with ReedPop, the people putting the show together, defining exactly what they wanted out of E3's 2023 rendition. Their initial participation and subsequent reluctance has led to a sense of betrayal within ReedPop. So ReedPop's going, hey, we reached out. We wanted to do this with you guys, and none of you guys have committed. So suddenly ReedPop is now tasked, according to the article, with bringing the gaming event back from the grave. But those people involved at ReedPop feel that they were left to shoulder the blame for the ESA's past mistakes and publishers' present day fears. I think it's kind of a chicken egg thing. If ReedPop can't create a compelling show that makes publishers say, I want to spend my fucking ducats on that, and it's valuable to us, you can't really blame the publishers for not jumping. I mean, honestly, if it were me, I would put the blame on ReedPop because you've got to design something that people are excited by. Otherwise, who gives a shit? So I'm still going to blame ReedPop. IGN reached out to a number of major publishers ahead of publication to ask if they were able to confirm E3 attendance or, where applicable, their plans for satellite events. Here are the people who haven't even responded. EA, Square Enix, Embracer Group, Activision Blizzard, aka Microsoft, Epic Games, Take-Two, and Warner Brothers Games. The only people that responded were Sega. Bandai Namco did confirm that it would be attending Playdays, but they didn't say anything about E3. And Devolver says, look, we're going to have a show like we always do, but we've never been part of E3. We've always been in the parking lot across the way. So yeah, if E3 happens this year, it'll be a Christmas miracle. I don't see this happening at all. Ever since they took away my booth, babe, says PG, E3 has been on the decline. Well, I don't know if I agree with that, but look, I would have no problem. I would have no problem if they wanted to bring back booth babes. As long as it was done in a way that was fair and equitable and kind, and because I'm not one of these guys, even though I'm very progressive and very woke, I like flesh. I like to see sexy ladies. And if you are of the female persuasion or the gay persuasion of male gay, you like to see the sexy men. I think there should be both. I think that's important. I think they should be protected from creeps. I think that's important. Although if you've heard what's going on at GDC right now or last week, There was a whole thing where like 2 nights in a row, there was an offsite GDC party where like 4 or 5 people's drinks were roofied. And then according to Game Industry Biz, they're getting word that there was assault that actually happened on the show floor of GDC. And I read this one Twitter account from this one woman, cute lady, and I'm only saying that because it's relevant to what I'm about to say. She posted a picture of herself and she said, you know, I'm here to demo my game. I think she worked with a big company, but she's like, I'm here to demo the game or demo our tech or whatever. And I can't tell you how many guys have come up to me under the guise of, hey, we want a demo. And then they end up asking me out. And it's just like, I would love to have, you know, sexy people on display. I think it's fun. It's silly. It's crazy. But when you can't even be a goddamn person, in this case, a woman who, whether you're ugly or attractive conventionally is irrelevant, working a booth and getting hit on while you're at your job, I don't know. Maybe gamers aren't mature enough to have booth babes. Maybe when we do better, we'll earn that right back. But right now, I don't think so. How is that harassment, says Addie Pie? It's not that it, well, okay. It's inappropriate because it's in the workplace. She is working, okay? Also, forget the fact that you know nothing about her. You're only judging her on her looks, right? Which is, that's okay. Some people don't have a problem with that. Some people do. But even that aside, it's harassment because she's working and you're asking her out. I don't mean it's like legally sexual harassment, but you are harassing her. Do you come with the game, says Jeeves. I bet she heard that 1,000 times. Right. Oh, God, please don't. Bukaki says, I'll sacrifice myself. If they bring back booth babes, I'll walk around E3 for the ladies to admire. Can you imagine? You know, there is that AVN, which is the adult video network thing that they have in Vegas every year, which is like the adult industry convention. And I wonder, I mean, maybe this is a stupid thing to wonder, but I wonder if those guys are getting harassed all the time as well. I don't know. Okay. Nintendo Directs and digital showcases back to E3, says Ethan Jory, was the beginning of the end for E3. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely get it. Once it was discovered and once the technology came along that you could reach more people and you could have 100% control of that message, why would you go to E3? That's what I'm saying. That's what ReedPop needed to sit down in a room and do. And maybe they tried to and they failed, but if your start off meeting for E3 is not, okay, fellas, we just got the rights to run E3. Why, if you were Sony, why, if you were Microsoft, what would you do to make them compelled to come to this show? And I'm sure they did that. I mean, it says they reached out to them, but clearly the answers they came up with were not good enough. God knows I would have heard, you guys would have heard some leaks. I haven't heard any leaks of like, ooh, that sounds pretty good. Nothing they've said makes me go, ooh, I can't wait. Mr. K, you pain in my ass. He says, who gives a shit? You're a hot girl, you get asked out. Boo-hoo. Would you rather be an ugly bitch? Jesus Christ, you're going to hell. I don't really think that's the point, okay? It's just, I don't want to get into it right now. Let's talk games, but we can, again, I will move politics to the back of the show. If you want to talk about the shooting, if you want to talk about that tone-deaf comment, Mr. K, I'm more than happy to. We'll do it at the end of the show. Okay. I haven't watched a full E3, says Bacon, since years after the PS4 got released. I think 2016 was the last. I now just rely on recap videos from YouTubers. Yeah. Absolutely. Juan says, no, Jaffe, let's not. What I'm saying, Juan, is I'll put it at the end of the show. So people who are like, dude, I'm here for games. You guys can peel off. I respect that. Listen, I want to look what I do for you guys. A lot of people would argue that Far Cry 5 is the very best Far Cry in the series, in the goddamn series. I I have never played it more than an hour, and I liked it. Just got busy playing other goddamn things. Well, I'm going to play it again because right now until tomorrow night, this ends tomorrow night. So if you've been considering it, do not sleep on it. Far Cry 5, you can't really see the whole thing, sorry about that, will cost you $8.99 right now over on PlayStation. I think similar deals are happening on Xbox and Steam at the moment. Fupy says, what? Far Cry 5 has the dumbest setting, America. I think it's the most interesting setting, frankly. I think the idea of doing cults and sort of Waco style uprisings in America is actually quite interesting. Is quite interesting. So it's $5. I mean, sorry, it's $8. Far Cry, Ryan P, is it Far Cry 5 is currently free on Game Pass? Well, that's even better. That's even better than go get it there. But if you want to own it, I'm letting you know it's $8. Pick it up if you're curious. Listen to this. Today is a big day for the folks over at Naughty Dog and fans of the folks over at Naughty Dog. So, PC release of Last of Us Part 1 is out today. Here's what's interesting about that. I mean, I never loved The Last of Us. I loved the first, I love the second Last of Us, but I know a lot of people think the first one's the best. It's got better graphics, this, that, and the other. But there's a couple of really interesting things in this Naughty Dog post in their blog at naughtydog.com about this. And I just want to point two of them out to you guys. The first one is, I honestly have never thought of this. The last time I worked on a game that went to PC was probably Twisted Metal 2, and I barely touched that. I was working on the console stuff, but this was really interesting. It never occurred to me to think about this, but here's what they wrote regarding Last of Us Part 1 and sort of, because I guess they developed this internally, like they took on the porting job, I believe, of the PC. They say PC gaming gives a lot of personal freedom to players to customize their experience. As developers, we must ensure the experience is authentic across platforms while addressing the reality of different hardware, even if we must reconsider fundamental aspects of a game. Again, as a former designer, this is a really neat challenge. I don't know how they solved it. For example, they say, The Last of Us Part 1 on PS5 employs what they call stick walking, which I've never heard, where players traverse a space using the DualSense controller's thumbstick. As we all know, walking too fast in The Last of Us could alert the infected, which if you're trying to remain stealthy, you want to avoid. But while using the thumbstick, players' emotions might sometimes get the best of them, resulting in throttling the speed at which they walk. The feature is both tactile and emotional, adding to the suspense of almost every encounter. For the PC version, we had to consider many players' preference of using a keyboard and a mouse as a viable control method. However, those don't necessarily behave the same way as a controller. So the design team explored and adapted this traversal method while still ensuring a world-class player experience with mouse and keyboard. We want PC players to experience the same level of tactile and suspenseful gameplay as console players. It's really interesting. Never occurred to me. It never fucking occurred to me that if you are bringing something like The Last of Us to a PC, you know, not just stealth. Of course, that's been solved, but you know, the speed with which you walk, unless you're just going, oh yeah, you hold down the control key and you creep, right? Other than that, they don't really go into details about how they solved it, but I think it never would have occurred to me that was an issue. But here's even the bigger thing they say regarding the PC, and this I think speaks well for Faction's chances of success, which is, it's not the official name, but their multiplayer game coming out soon. I think in the summer we're going to get, the rumor is that we're going to be seeing Spider-Man 2 and PS5 Pro and Factions as sort of the stars of PlayStation's summer showcase. This is all rumor. I don't have any evidence of that. I'm just going by internet rumors from people like Jeff Grubb. Listen to this, though. Here's what they wrote. PlayStation and PC players are talking to you. This is Naughty Dog. We're already looking forward to sharing more. Whether you prefer a DualSense controller or keyboard and mouse, developing for both platforms empowers us to incorporate lessons learned from either into the overall design of our games. Sharing our stories and experiences on PS5 and PC is something Naughty Dog has embraced and will continue to support moving forward. Now, some people have read this to mean, oh, we're getting even closer and closer to day and date. Maybe. I just read this to mean that everything they develop now is being dual developed for PC and PS5. And of course, there will be a gap from the hardware to the PC version. What's kind of cool about it, though, is if PlayStation does eventually bring PS Plus to the PC in the same way that Game Pass has, then you won't have to do all that bullshit of like, yeah, you can play PS Plus on your PC, but now you could I'd like to be able to download the actual PC versions, not streaming a PS version of the game. But the bigger thing, though, is I think this is not that it was in doubt, but of course Factions is going to be a day one PC, day one PS5, maybe even PS4, but I doubt that, which I think is fantastic. Hell, if I was Sony, I'd just say, you know what, guys, if I was Sony, you know what I would do? I would say Factions is on everything. It's on Xbox. If it can run on Switch, probably can't. Switch, whatever. Xbox, PlayStation, PC. Okay? Not the single player stuff, right? And maybe there's like a little 2-hour narrative sequence in there. Or maybe because the HBO show, people are already so into it, you don't even need a straight up narrative sequence. It's just baked into the multiplayer. I could see people going, fuck, I have an Xbox or I only game on PC, but I want to know more about this fucking world, you know? And it would also help the game build a bigger audience. So Mr. K says, of course Factions is going to be day one PC. Why are you saying it like it's for sure? Why? Because only a moron would make a game these days that's multiplayer only and put it only in one place other than consoles that are directly competing. Why in the fucking world would you not? So yes, I don't have any evidence of it, but I can goddamn guarantee you it'll probably fucking happen. Okay, let me get a couple of super chats, which I appreciate very, very much. You guys, PlayStation for the win says, when are you going to stop shilling for Xbox? I don't know. I mean, I don't shill for MAGA hat bet again. Maybe we'll talk about it in a minute. I don't shill for Xbox. I shill for shit I like. I love Game Pass. I'm warming up more and more to PlayStation Plus or whichever version I have, premium or the top of the line. But, you know, and I play on my PlayStation 5 all the time, but I do not shill for Xbox. But I've said it over and over. And if anybody from Microsoft is watching, if you actually want any of my help, which you don't need, well, you need some of it with the management, but send me a check. I would happily shill for Xbox, for Game Pass specifically. 100%. Instant Messenger, Sam, thank you for that very generous super chat. He says, Jaffe, have you seen the 5.2 Unreal presentation? I mean, I saw the Unreal Dog and Pony at GDC last week, if that's what you mean. But is there, when you say 5.2, is there something new coming that was revealed post that? Short of that, though, no. I mean, I've seen the Unreal Fortnite tools, which look amazing. And I've seen some of the new Unreal stuff that looks amazing, but I don't know if there's something new that dropped. Ben Brody says, apparently The Last of Us on PC is terrible at the moment. Really? I'm going to go look that up. Really? That's really fucking fascinating to me because it's developed by Naughty Dog. You would think there's no goddamn way in hell they're going to release something shitty. Let's just look that up real quick. Let's see. The Last of Us Part 1 PC Metacritic. Boy, that would be terrible. That would be terrible for them. That would be a rare miss. I don't see any reviews yet, so I'll check it out. It's not running properly on Steam Deck. Okay. Let's not forget, Jeffy likes to play a lot of new games and variety. Yeah, I love Game Pass. What do you want? Okay, and I am playing Marvel Snap. We'll talk about that in just a second. It wasn't ported by Sony's porting studio. No, if you be right, it was ported by Naughty Dog themselves, right? My understanding is it was developed by Naughty Dog. At least according to this article, that's what it sounds like. Crazy if that's true. Well, I will keep looking out for some, maybe on the next show tomorrow, we'll talk about it, depending. Prince Green is saying, Iron Galaxy Nix handles the PC port. It's mostly negative on Steam. Okay, so perhaps then, Prince Green, what they're talking about then when you read their article, if you actually go to the Naughty Dog blog post right here, maybe they're just talking about, they're porting it in terms of as a publisher or as an overseer, but they're not really, they weren't sitting there messing with the code. I don't know. Okay. I saw someone say, and just bring it up earlier, that's all I'll say. I saw someone say, Zelda looks like DLC, and I will respond to that. But if I forget you said it, it's a pretty good line, and I think you're absolutely wrong, by the way. But we'll talk about it. Listen to this. You know who's not having a good day besides Bukaki? Listen to this. Hey, Spectre Bull, good to see you as always, buddy. Ricardo, yes, I will be responding 100%. I've been busy. I've been trying to stream every day. I will be responding to Discord. I will make it a point to do it tonight. I will do it tonight, I promise. Guess who's not having a good day? Jim Ryan, you got it, Dalo. Jim Ryan got sucker punched twice today. Now, the first one is kind of nuts because even Japan has come out and ruled in favor of Microsoft, Sony's home country, where Microsoft can't fucking get a break when it comes to sales. This motherfucker, Japan's FTC has ruled in favor of Activision Blizzard deal. How is this, of all the people? I mean, granted, that at least speaks well for the Japanese government that says, hey, we're not playing favorites, we're just reading the law, baby. But of all people, if you would expect them to play favorites, you'd assume it'd be their home country. Japan's Fair Trade Commission has given the green light to Microsoft plans to acquire Activision Blizzard. Can you imagine how uncomfortable that's got to be the next time Jim Ryan meets with the Sony, I think in Kyoto or Tokyo mothership? It's like, really? You couldn't even close Tokyo. You get a set of steak knives. You don't close it if you come on. It is concluded that the deal would not substantially restrain competition in a certain field of trade. The commission has informed the companies that it will not issue a cease and desist order and now brought the matter to a close. In addition to Japan, the countries that have approved the deal are Saudi Arabia, Brazil, Chile, and Serbia. We know that the UK is starting to look more and more likely. Okay. But listen to this. Listen to this. This is the best. This is the best for a couple of reasons. So Jim Ryan's like, hello, governor, I got a bloody nose in Japan, I did. No worries, mate. I'll head back to America where they love me. They think my accent is sexy and I dress nice. All right, that's fine. That's fine. He comes back to America. The American Congress has raised concerns about Sony's monopoly on Japanese gaming market. Now, this is going to go somewhere. This is going to go somewhere. That's not just this news. I got to tell you something crazy. Okay, this is dodgy. It is dodgy. It is dodgy. But Jim Ryan went out there with his little sword and shield, and he woke the beast of Microsoft, not the beast of Xbox, whatever. Microsoft, one of the most the wealthiest company at times on the planet. So Senator Maria Cantwell last week remarked during a Senate Finance Committee hearing that Sony was engaging in blatant anti-competitive conduct. Further, she called upon U.S. Trade Representative Catherine Tai to investigate these exclusionary conducts. This is what the senator says. She says, I'm told that Sony controls a monopoly of 98% of the high-end game market. This is the reason I'm laughing. You'll hear in a minute. of the high-end game market. Yet Japan's government has allowed Sony to engage in blatant anti-competitive conduct through exclusive deals and payments to game publishers. She then posed the question to Ty. So what do you think we can do to better address these issues and create a level playing field with the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework on something as important as this issue? And then you had a Democrat and a Republican both send letters to the Commerce Secretary and to Ty. The Republican letter was very similar to the Democrat letter. The Republican letter said the Japanese government's effective policy of non-prosecution when it comes to Sony appears to be a serious barrier to U.S. exports, with real impacts for Microsoft, and the many U.S. game developers and publishers that sell globally, but see their earnings in Japan depressed by these practices. Sony's anti-competitive tactics deserve discussion, and we will further investigate to ensure a level playing field in the game industry, says Microsoft. Now, what? Now, let's assume this all goes according to the way the tea leaves are reading, right? Let's assume that the deal goes through, like the UK is indicating, and like Japan today just said is going to happen. And then let's assume on top of that, Sony has to adjust some of their, I don't know if I would agree it's anti-consumer, but their exclusive policies in order to allow them to get the kind of deals they need to get to do business at the level they do in America. Because ultimately, what's the outcome of this is that if this happens, they want to place some limits, some regulations. Okay? So this is the best part, though. It's horrible, but it's the best part. Is that Jim Ryan went off and tried to fight the final boss in Elden Ring first up. He wasn't prepared for Microsoft to wake up. Because look at this. Maria Cantwell, the very woman who's the senator that brought this to people's attention. Would you like to know who the top contributor of her campaigns has been for the last over 30 years? Well, there it is right there, Microsoft. Microsoft has given her over $500,000 over the last 30 years to her campaign contributions. And what does she do? She goes on up there to her little jobby job and she says, hey, Jim Ryan, keep your fucking, I fucked that one up. Keep Microsoft's name out of your fucking mouth, or what do you mean, so what? Kabini Gaming said, so what? What do you mean, so what? So the point is end of the day, it's all about who's getting paid. It's all about the money. And so Microsoft could have just been sitting back there going, okay, well, you just keep doing it, Sony. But if you fuck with us and if you fuck this deal for us, we have Maria Cantwell in our back pocket. And so fuck you. There go your exclusive Tomb Raiders and Final Fantasies and all that shit. That's all I'm saying. 8 of the 11 Congress people are from Microsoft's home state. Yeah, it could be. Maria Cantwell should focus on cake sandwich recipes. Oh my God. Shut up, Fupy. Shut up. Lobbying is legal, Space. It shouldn't be. It's horrible. U.S. politics are totally for sale. It's horrible. It will be the end of this country, 100%. It's terrible. But I'm just saying, this is the game. This is the game board. These are the pieces you're playing with, Sony. And, so if you didn't prep for that, that's on you. Of course it's normal, Apex. No one's saying this like it's a gotcha. Apex says companies do this all the time. It's normal. Hogue Law said there's nothing to worry about because Sony has senators. They give charity. Well, it's not charity. They don't give charity to anybody. But yes, of course, every company spends for Republicans and Democrats as much as they need to influence them without hurting their PR. There's absolutely, I'm not saying you can't enter Sony into this. In fact, although Sony's a Japanese company. So let's see. Sony political contributions. I'm curious if they can even do that to, I guess they can do American companies, even though, okay, so let's see their top recipients. Democrat, DNC, Democracy, I don't really, what about companies? Yes, if somebody can find that, let me know. Sony contributions. Wait, how about this? Which senator gets the most contributions from Sony? Let's see. Most liberal tech companies. So we know Sony gives money, but who do they give it to? All of this because Jimbo didn't sign the contract. That's right. Oh, God, shut up, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Ugh, gross. Point is, though, yeah, every company does this. This is not some rare thing. It's just that, you know, clearly Sony didn't seem to have anybody in their back pocket that could grease the wheels, which sadly is the game. I don't even see Sony on this fucking list. So, all right, we'll move on. How much do I think East West says that Sony and Jim are regretting everything they've done? You know, I mean, look, I've said what I said before, which was I don't think anything Jim Ryan has done is shameful. I mean, I think the optics have always been crap, and it was a thankless job for him because the optics would always be crap. But what was he going to do? Just sit there and take it? He had to try. But it may have been, you know, and again, I'm just speculating. I don't have any evidence at all on this, right? But I don't know if this upset Microsoft. I mean, you can see it upset Activision because they've literally allowed... No, I would say this upset Microsoft too, because when you've got their head of communications of both companies publicly tweeting and not walking it back, some really harsh words for Sony and revealing some things Jim Ryan said behind closed doors, it seems to reason that they pissed off Sony or Sony pissed them off. So maybe they were like, all right, fuck it then, motherfuckers. We'll go to war. I mean, maybe I'm making it too dramatic. I don't know. It's just kind of what it seems like. Jim ended up getting a better deal, an extra 8 years. Okay. Fupy says Sony is a graceful ninja, number one in the world, run by James Bond, Jim Ryan. Microsoft is the ugly dog used in a 4chan meme competition. Oh man, just love games, baby. Do what I do, you'll be happy. Just love the games. Love the games, baby. Oh God, Marjorie Taylor Greene OnlyFans. Can you imagine? Hey, speaking of though, let's knock the Microsoft guys down a pedestal or two, or a step or two. By the way, before we do that, Ricardo Estevez, thank you, buddy. He says you got to check Frostbite Orcs, a full AI band on YouTube. What the fuck is that? Thank you for the super chat, buddy. Let me put that in the thing so I can look at it later. Frostbite Orcs. Okay, if you've never heard of Frostbite Orcs, they are they're an AI band. Cool. I'll give it a look. Thank you, bud. All right, but listen to this. Let's push the Xbox people down a peg because they're getting little big for their britches. Remember last year when suddenly this was the best. Suddenly Metacritic Game Publisher of the Year mattered. What? Had anybody ever tracked that or paid any goddamn attention to that other than the people who actually made the list? I suggest not. I suggest not. But anyway, they're not even in the top 50. Microsoft is vanished from the top 50. And who sits at the top? You know who sits at the top. But I thought this would be a fun list to go through a couple of these. We're not going to go through the whole goddamn thing. But if you're curious about it, you can go on over to Metacritic and check out, because it is interesting. Number 25 Publisher of the Year is a company called Thunderful. I guess they do Curse to Golf, and that was enough to get them up there. I'd never even really fucking heard of them. I don't know who, I know who Chris Chan is. Bacon Magma says, did you hear that Chris Chan got released? I haven't really followed the Chris Chan thing other than to say, I wish somebody would link me a documentary over in Discord where I could watch it, because it sounds like it was fucking batshit. Bandai Namco dropped to 24 from 7. That's basically, they had Dragon Ball, the Dark Pictures anthology, Devil in Me, which I actually really, really liked, and actually finished that game. And then, of course, Elden Ring is still selling really well. So 24, not bad. 24, not bad. United Games Entertainment, I'm not going to go through, you let me know. I'll go through the ones that most people know. I've never even heard of half of these fucking things. And some I have, like 505. They put out 50% good games this year. No great games. They're at number 21. They dropped from 10, I guess, because Death Stranding, they put out their port this year. Where's Nintendo? You'll see, baby. Spike Chunsoft. I don't know what the fuck that is. Okay, we'll move on. Number 19 is Plug-in Digital. I don't know what that is, right? I mean, Digerati I've heard of. Terror of Hermasaurus. Okay. Number 17 is Electronic Arts. Last year they were 9. This year they're 17. They put out 57% of their games were good. Madden NFL, NHL, F1 22. Only one EA release scored above 81, a Switch port of the co-op action classic It Takes Two. So, they're dropping. Number 16, Raw Fury. They're on the up. 20 last year, 16 this year. Norco people love, and they got a pretty fucking good slate coming out this year. Garnet Lee, who used to do One Up, and We Can Confirm, one of my favorite podcasts of all time. He's actually over there running, I think it's like Game Acquisition. He's a good dude. I'm going to have him on the show pretty soon. All right, look at this. Number 15, Way Forward, one of my favorite game developers and publishers. They weren't even on last year. River City Girls got great reviews. Dawn of the Monsters I thought was terrible, though. But they jumped up to 15 out of nothing. That's not too shabby. Atari. What? Probably because, Atari 50, the anniversary celebration. That's a great collection. That got them on the list. Last year, they weren't anywhere to be seen. I don't know what this is. We're getting into the top 10. Here we go. Nintendo's number 12. They popped up 2 from 14. After seeing Zelda today, I bet they'll be higher next year, but we'll talk about that later. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, Bayonetta 3, and Splatoon 3 all got good reviews. A third of Nintendo releases this year failed to impress reviewers, including Pokemon and a lackluster follow-up to Wii Sports. So they're sitting at a 78.6 average Metacritic score for 2022. They dropped, or they rose 2 places in the rankings, the mighty Nintendo. 11 is Red Art Games. I don't know the fuck that is. Never heard of any of these games. What the fuck? But I mean, that should tell you how stupid this list is. That a company most of us have never heard of, Red Art Games, is literally sitting above, which doesn't mean their games aren't great. I'm not mocking their games. But that should tell you how dumb Metacritic's Publisher of the Year is. When a company makes a vertical shooter called Soft Star and Gunborg Dark Matters, what? And that beats Nintendo? Are you out of your goddamn mind? What a stupid fucking list. But anyway, let's keep going. I mean, they're just saying, hey, these are the reviews. We didn't make it. We're just compiling it. Devolver, the beloved Devolver, is up 1. A lot of that has to do, of course, with the brilliant Cult of the Lamb and new ports of Inscription. Return to Monkey Island. They did get kind of bloody noses with Serious Sam and Trek to Yomi, but overall they did well enough to pop up into the top 10. I did play Spider Source by Way Forward. It was really, really good. I enjoyed it. DSP's Incident. Bacon says Red Arts is a European developer. They also do lots of limited releases. They may, but you think they're better than Nintendo? Humble Games dropped to 9. Signalis, which I still have to play here, is great. And new ports of Proteus, Unpacking, which is brilliant. Proteus is brilliant. And Tim Tim, which I have no fucking idea what that is. Harbinger. Thank you, buddy. You sent me the Chris Chan Historian. Excellent. Look at this. Annapurna, the mighty Annapurna at number 8. That's 10 fucking places these motherfuckers jumped. Stray and Neon White were the 2 to really get them blood flowing. What a great publisher. Their new game Storyteller just came out. Boy, it's good. I know a lot of people are like, it's only 2 hours long, and that's true. If you purchase games and that's a big part, probably not for you, but it's really cool. Really cool, really compelling. Morgan, there's a lot of puzzles in Signalis. I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah, Neon White is awesome, Buzzati. The biggest issue with Neon White that I have is, and I need to just approach it differently, is that it's a it's a visual novel and it's a brilliant action game. And so when I first played it, it opens with the brilliant action, and then once you finish a chunk, you're like into this sort of Danganronpa thing, and you're like, what the fuck is this? But if you go in knowing that, I'm going to go in knowing that, and I'm going to see if I enjoy it more. Carlos says the story sucks in that game. Okay. Listen to this. Sega jumps up 1. That's because Persona 5 Royal, 2 Point Campus got some good reviews. Total War Warhammer 3 got good reviews. Latest Sonic platformer was a disappointment for critics, but it did really well. Metacritic users were much more positive about that particular game. Still haven't played Sonic Frontiers, but I hear people love it. I hear Sonic fans love it. Capcom, my favorite publisher of all time. Capcom was 6th. They're number 6 now. They're still 6. Resident Evil 4 isn't included because it just came out. Monster Hunter Rise on PC, Capcom Fighting, and RE Village Gold that had like the third-person perspective and the new DLC with the daughter. All of that came out in 2022. It was enough to put them up to 78.6 average Metacritic rating. Capcom, the great Capcom. If Capcom were a person, they would be my best friend. I just love them so much. Capcom was 6. They're number 6. Again, they're still 6. What am I saying? Take-Two Interactive is the number 5 top publisher of the year, according to Metacritic. Ollie Ollie World, great reviews. Marvel Midnight Suns didn't sell well, but boy, it got great reviews. It was awesome. The Quarry was really good. It's like a good, solid 7 out of 10 game. And even good reviews for NBA 2K23 propelled them to 78.9, 86% good reviews. Number 5 publisher of the year. Here we go. Focus Entertainment. I don't know what the fuck that is. Number 4, Focus Entertainment. What the fuck do you people make? Oh, shit. Chained Echoes. They published that. They published Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge, Hardspace Shipbreaker, and Plague Tale Requiem. All of those were great games. Okay, shut the fuck up, Jaffe. I've heard of every one of those games. I've played every one of those games except Hardspace. I couldn't tell you. Oh, Focus Entertainment. Okay, I know who they are. Yeah. 80% average Metacritic score. That's not bad. That's not shabby. Good job on you, Focus. Those are some good fucking video games. Absolutely. Streets of Rage 4 as well, Mutant Mo. Maybe, but that was last year, so that's why it's not on the list. Number 3 publisher, Activision Blizzard. 90% of their games got good reviews. What the fuck did they put out? What? Independent company, while that planned deal dominates headlines, publisher had a pretty good year with positive reviews for 9 of its 10 games. Diablo Immortal, which I actually enjoyed on the phone, was the only one they put out that was poorly reviewed. None of their games were great. Its best reviewed game, World of Warcraft, scored an 82. But I guess they put out decent enough games. That's weird. Oh, okay. I guess they're doing it total points based on average reviews and then good versus bad. So I guess you'd say, why did they go lower than Focus? Probably because Focus had less games or something. I don't, the score is explained, but I'm not going to explain it to you right now because I got to fucking read it again. It's been a while. Number 2, Paradox Interactive. Great publisher, 100% good. All 5 games they put out were positively reviewed, led by console ports of the great strategy game Crusader Kings 3. Are you ready for number 1? This is let me explain something to you. You know what name we haven't mentioned? Oh, don't worry about it, George. I always want to spell my name with a Y so people just know what it is. We haven't mentioned Microsoft. We haven't mentioned Sony. Well, we haven't mentioned Microsoft because they're nowhere on this list. But we haven't mentioned Sony because they're number 1. Sony Interactive Entertainment comes in strong, 85. 100% of their games got good reviews. There were 2 games that got great reviews. The This year, Sony had no problem taking a top spot in our ranking, says Metacritic, and not just because Microsoft failed to qualify by releasing an atypically low 4 distinct scored title, falling one title short of the 5-game cutoff. So they didn't even put out enough content. Sony's nothing but green scores 2022 slate may have consisted solely of ports and sequels, but it was consistently good. Led by Game of the Year candidate God of War Ragnarok and a PC port of God of War, and the publisher's worst reviewed title, MLB The Show, still scored 77. You're not right. You're not wrong, Darth Nugget. There's not even a mention of Horizon in there. That's true. That's true. Microsoft is not on the list. What are you talking about? Look, it literally, you're saying it's under Activision. Unless you're joking, like because they own them or they will own them soon. But yeah, it's not even on the list. I mean, the very bottom of the list is Playway. Ubisoft is way down there at number 38. THQ Nordic is 37. What else? Team 17, they just lost their CEO, number 28. Yeah, so there you go. That's the so the point being is, if any of these Microsoft people come at you, and I am a Microsoft person, and they say, the Metacritic Publisher Award, it's stupid. It's dumb. So just, fuck you to that. All right. Lord Garth, thank you, buddy, for the super chat. He says, I used to consume all genres like a Vegas buffet, but I'm finding myself more picky in my old man Jaffe age, and it makes me a little sad. Well, I play, everything, but that is sort of my full-time job, is to play the stuff, talk about the stuff, interview people about the stuff. And I love it. And I am incredibly grateful for that. But I don't imagine if I was still working at Bartlett Jones or anything like that, I would be able to play. I would have to be very picky as well. Cause time is limited. So I'm down with you, on that. I get it, but, play what you like, man. There's a lot of great stuff out there in every genre. I started playing a game yesterday called Terra Nil, which is it's a puzzle game that kind of looks like a world builder, but it's not really a world builder. It's really fucking cool. Really fucking cool. I wouldn't have never played that if I wasn't just looking for playing all the stuff people are talking about. But thank you, Lord Gar, for that super chat and for the membership, buddy. I appreciate that. All right, let's move on. Let's move on with our goddamn day. Sebastian Cooper says, Jaffe, pull up the top 20 console. How would I find that? I don't know how to find that. I can tell you if you're curious, if you'd like to know what the most popular games on PlayStation are right now. Top 10 games in America, at least on PlayStation. MLB The Show, Resident Evil 4, NBA. I've already looked at this list. I want you to tell me what you see on this list. MLB The Show's number 1, RE4 is number 2, NBA 2K23 3, Fortnite 4, Call of Duty Season 2 5, FIFA 6, Madden 7, GTA 5, 8, Genshin Impact 9, Apex Legend is 10. What all of us who make shows like this one and watch shows like this one, here's what they have in common. We're a very vocal minority. Most of these fucking things are mainstream as you get. That's why I always get really frustrated when people come at me about, Sony will go nowhere. They make the best games. They do. They do. But so what? A lot of people think Merchant Ivory made better movies than Michael Bay, but Michael Bay movies trounced them at the box office. And I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that if you don't have that data, then you can't really contribute it to the conversation. If you don't actually know where you're at on the pecking order of what's important to these businesses. That's all I'm fucking saying. All right. This is not going to be everyone's cup of tea. I appreciate that. Hang on. But this is cool. This is cool. I played that Alien thing, Alien Rescue, the other day. I've played my first ever D&D game with some Gavin game members last year. I love both of them. It's amazing. I've never come to D&D and role playing like that before my fucking 50s. And I want to do more of it. But, you know, it's hard to get a team together and this and that and the other, right? Okay, fine. But today, Dungeons and Dragons, and yes, the movie opens Friday. I'm very eager to see it. It may be the first movie I see outside of the house since the pandemic. But they had their D&D Direct and they announced a bunch of shit. And I just want to show you this briefly. I'm not going to, I know, because this is not everybody's cup of tea. But it's pretty fucking cool, though, okay? This is D&D Virtual Tabletop. Now, they've talked about this before. And then today they revealed some more info on it, right? And so there's like no, that's the wrong one. That's DC. We'll get to that. D&D Virtual Tabletop. And this is a long video. I'll put it in a link if you're into this shit. But basically what it is it's trying to let people play D&D, but not D&D like, oh, let's play World of Warcraft. It still wants to be the game that you can think up anything, change the story. It's not just trying to do a D&D themed game. Like today they announced Minecraft D&D, which is just basically Minecraft with D&D pieces and a single player or a co-op adventure. This is still actually, hey, I want to blow a hole in the floor. And the dungeon master can literally go, okay, I'll make shit up on the fly to tell you a story about what's under the floorboards, right? I mean, this is still that, but it's online, connected on phone, tablet, computers, laptop, whatever. You've got tons of pieces. You can upload 3D maps, 2D maps that you make or other people make or Wizards of the Coast make. It has effects. Here's what they're going to have. A connected 3D experience. DM controls. The Dungeon Master can spawn minis on the board, assign monster data, show or hide them from players, etc. Just hit points. Dice rolls are automatic. Certain rules are automatic. If you turn them on, D&D Beyond, which is where you go to the website and make your character, all you have to do is take that code and import it into D&D Virtual Tabletop, and you get a 3D miniature of your paper rolled character. There's effects, there's animations, 2D, 3D maps. Okay. I know there's not an AI dungeon master, although that's coming. I mean, think about incorporating this with Chat GPT. I'll never leave my fucking computer. I'll never fucking leave my fucking computer. But ultimately, you know, it's getting more people into the hobby. And it's getting more people to understand that it's not, yeah, it's geeky, but so what these days? It's really fucking fun, you know? I know there are some people that say, well, isn't the whole point of D&D that it's in your mind? And in that, aren't you kind of destroying that? I don't think so. I think what really makes it immersive is that whatever you think of in the story can happen. That's why it's immersive. It's not just, I mean, yeah, sure, you have a vision of the dragon that's different from mine. I'm not too terribly worried about that. I like the fact that more people are going to be able to get together and enjoy this great game. So D&D Virtual Tabletop, the link is there. Well, see, yeah, so Bitrate Brawler says, I wish they'd make D&D similar to Dragon's Dogma or Skyrim with an online component. I think the problem is your second part of the sentence with a DM component that can manipulate the world. We are absolutely getting there, and we will be there eventually, probably in the next 10 years. We'll probably be there with AI dungeon masters with Chat GPT. But we're just not there yet. And frankly, I would much rather, if somebody came to me and said, you can have photorealistic Skyrim or you can have this, I'd want to play both. But I would much rather play this because to me, the immersion doesn't come from the visuals. It comes from anything I think of. Like I was blown away when we played D&D online with the Gavin and Games members a couple of months back. And literally someone had the idea to cut a hole in the floor. And suddenly it was a hole. And I think it was Rob or somebody got a rope and we climbed down the hole And there was a whole fucking world down there that we would have missed if we would have gone out the front door. I mean, it's like it's like you really are. This is as close you're going to get to the holodeck. So I'm in love with this shit. I'm in love with this shit. I wonder how the movie will do in light of how many more RPG books. Well, the movie is going to do well because it is getting awesome reviews, believe it or not. Yeah, I did see that, East West, that D&D is coming to Minecraft. Yeah. Okay. I'll show you one more thing. These two stories back to back, D&D and collectible card games. I know I cut off a man's fingers off because his son was an asshat. I did do that, didn't I? Not everybody's into these. These are sort of the geeky end of the spectrum, but I'm into them. I'm going to talk about this, but we'll get to Zelda in just a couple of minutes because I know that's the main story of the day, and I want to talk about Zelda. But before I do, I want to talk about this. I didn't know this was even in the cards, on the cards. This is it's not DC's version of Snap. This is a much more complicated collectible card game. This was actually announced over 18 months ago. It's called DC Dual Force, and it feels much deeper, like a Magic the Gathering, or at least like Hearthstone, right? So what's really cool is it's deeper in that. A couple cool things about this. You pick two characters, so you can put Superman with Harley Quinn, or Harley Quinn and Wonder Woman, or Batman and the Joker, whatever. And they're fighting your buddy or whoever you're fighting against, two other characters. And then you've got all these fucking minions, right? The character cards, you have all kinds of, you have a lot more sort of trigger words. What do they call these things? A card will have like an ambush effect. So while you're attacking cards with the ambush, you get to deal first. Or speed cards like the Flash, they can attack immediately. Or lethal cards. Anytime you have a lethal character, any minions they damage automatically get knocked out, right? And then if you look at the cards themselves, check out some of these fucking cards. They're beautiful. They are just fucking cool. So yeah, I'm into this. I think it'll be a nice complement to Marvel Snap in that it's a little bit deeper. But look, you got the fucking Batman card. He gets +2 and ambush. I don't know what that means, but it's cool. You got Dr. Fate, Gorilla Grodd, whatever the fuck is it? Harley Quinn. +2 to 6. And Harley Quinn immediately attacks anybody at random. Punchline, you got Superman, +3, and he uses the hunter keyword this term. Look at this. Doomsday. You knock out half of your opponent's minions. That's fucking Doomsday, man. It's fucking cool. It's fucking cool. So I'm excited. I don't know if this is their answer to Marvel Snap, because this was honestly announced back in 2021 in October. So, you know, I'm sure both people were working on their games for a long time. But this is coming soon, I think this year. When specifically, I don't know, but I'm excited. This is called Dual Force, DC Dual Force digital collectible card game coming to PC. Okay. Punchline is in that Joker comic I bought a few weeks ago. I have never heard of that character, but now I have because of you. Look at this. You can get super strength. A friendly minion gets +3/+3 shield. I love this shit, man. I love collectible card games when they're based on properties I dig, and when they're not so complex they make you fucking want to jump out of a fucking airplane. What? You want the Gorilla card? When an enemy is blocking, Gorilla Grodd is KO'd. Draw a card. Cool. I want to play this now. Now. Okay, let's move on though. Let's move on. I get it. This isn't for everybody. It's not for everybody, and I can appreciate that. It's acquired taste. I get it. Okay, in just a second, in just a moment, we're going to jump into Legend of Zelda. We're going to talk about the reviews for CRIMEBOSS ROCKACITY. We are going to talk about, and I don't know if you've heard this, we are going to talk about how this book has pissed off one of the original OG greatest game designers out there. We got a lot more coming up, but I do need to tell you a couple things first because it's very, very important. As you can see, Day One Patch Kids, baby. Day One Patch Kids has the shirts. They got the shower curtains. They got the towels. This right here is the Sweet Tooth one. You can also go over to day1patchkids.com. They are a sponsor of this here show, and check out all of their Garbage Pail Kids meet video game characters. It's good fun for all the kids. I love it very much. I'm going to make a puppet out of these one of these days soon. Day One Patch Kids. Also want to let you know alixplox is the good sir who provides our music for this show. He's got albums. He's got singles. It is very synthy, 80s, cinematic. It's really good stuff. All these links are in your link tree. But if you ever want some work in music, if you're like a writer or if you're a programmer and you just need something in the background that really inspires, give it a look, man. alixplox over on the YouTube. Check it out. Finally, don't forget the Elitist Podcast has a new episode coming up. These guys are video game podcasts, but it's not just the news. It's video game trivia about video games. And it's really fun. You tune it in, you turn it on, and you're totally engaged because you want to know if you really are as smart as you think you are when it comes to video games. That's the Elitist Podcast. All these you can find down below in the link tree. Okay, now, let me get this super chat. Man Cave says, is Jaffe turning more and more into old man Kratos? It's possible, but this is old man Kratos. His beard isn't even white. His beard isn't even white. Hang on. Okay, well, if anybody's being a troll and people believe it, let one of the mods or me know and I'll ban them. I do want to let you know, though, we're about to talk about Zelda. But who's this? Who's this? Oh, hey, what are you doing up in the clouds, boys? Come on down. So, Jim, you had a hell of a day. You had a hell of a day. Sorry. You had a hell of a day. Well, I don't know what that means, sir. What is actually happening? Well, you see, the government of America has once again betrayed merry old England, just like back in the day, and their senators are saying that Sony is, they are basically taking advantage of their position and making it harder for Xbox to make money. Well, do you know, Jaffe? Do you know the money that the lead instigator makes on her campaign contributions? Most of it comes. Don't say it. Most of it comes. Hey, Jimmy J, Jimmy R. Hey, baby, what's going on? I've had it with you. I've been seeing you in my dreams every evening. Well, baby, this is how it is. I want nothing more than to watch you choke and burn in your sleep. Man, you need to fucking get a massage or a fucking hooker or something, dude. What's the matter? What's the matter, Jimmy? Am I playing too hardball for you? Playing too hardball for you? You know, I got nothing. I got nothing because I'm watching people ban Batman in the chat. Anyway, all right, let's move on. Yeah, ban Batman. Fuck that guy. What an idiot. Okay. Listen to me. I want you to understand something, and it's important. Mark Arnold says, I just arrived. Are we watching Jaffe's cry for help? Absolutely. What do you think this show is? Okay. As you know, I assume. Oh, would you guys please stop? I mean, I don't care. I'm not gonna pay attention to the chat. I'm gonna talk about games. Gonna talk about Zelda. But come on, guys, don't be fucking babies. We're all gamers. Be gamers. Shut the fuck up. Listen. So, Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom got a 10-15 minute Nintendo Direct this morning. somebody earlier in the chat was like, oh, it looks like DLC. And I know they were taking the piss because that's what I said about God of War. This looks far from DLC. And I know people will be like, oh, you're just being contrarian. No, I'm really not. My complaint about God of War Ragnarok when they showed it off was not that it didn't look amazing, but it looked like the previous game. This game looks very fucking different, and I love it. I know it's been mixed. Morgan clearly in the chat doesn't like it. I appreciate that. I think this is so clever and so cool, and it absolutely, and I was not into Breath of the Wild. I thought Breath of the Wild was pretty boring. I thought, I enjoyed it for what it was, but compared to something like an Elden Ring, or a Bloodborne or a Miles Morales, it felt like dead. It just felt like a dead, and I didn't like all the shrines and all that shit. I didn't care for it. So I wasn't really interested in this at all. I was just like, I'll probably skip. But when they showed, and not the tech, I get it struggles with frame rate. It's old hardware. It doesn't look as good as the big boys on the block now. I get it. That's not what excites me about video games. What excites me about video games is the game, is the gameplay. And this is loaded. This is so Nintendo. Whether you like it or not, I don't mean that like, fuck you. I mean, whether you like it or it doesn't appeal to you is irrelevant. This is the Nintendo that I love, where they take mechanics and you are just like, hey, that's really cool. That's clever. That looks like fun to do. They don't worry about the graphics as much. They don't worry about cinematic storytelling. They just give you a lot of fun shit to do in their game. So I just want to walk you through briefly a couple of the things that I felt were really, really cool at a mechanics level. Because what Zelda, this is Zelda right here riding the horse, you know. What he can do is new in a lot of ways. And I'm excited for this. Look at this. Check it out. So the first thing they showed was a new ability. I think it's just rewind, but the way they do it is pretty fucking cool. Watch this. I'll let the producer talk about it for a second. So he's looking up at the sky.
If we take a look, oh, something's falling from the sky.
So there are these floating sky islands, and he's like, I wish I knew how to get up to the floating sky islands, right?
Wonder what that is.
And now there's this rock that falls from the sky, and
We're almost at the spot.
you use your stamina to climb up to find the crater. You find the object that fell from the sky.
Okay, let's use one of Link's new abilities.
So
Do this on the rock that just fell.
So this is called rewind. It's basically rewind time, but the way they're using it, so it just goes back up to the sky, right? I thought that was pretty cool. All right, let's keep going. There's a lot of this stuff. There's no Link is the little guy who flies around. Link is the guy who flies around. This is Zelda. Okay. So then I really thought the combat was neat because, okay, first he's just fighting this dude with a branch, and it's like, oh God, we're back to that. And I hated all the weapon decay and all that shit. But watch this. This is pretty cool.
Ah, the branch broke. Not good, not good. Quick, get another branch and...
Okay, so he beats the guy up, he kills him, destroyed his branch. Okay, but
moving on.
Look at this new ability he's got.
We've now explored more of this sky island. As expected, fighting with just a branch won't get us very far. Also, this branch is almost broken. So here's another one of Link's new abilities.
Come on, this is cool.
If we use this branch and the rock over here, and do this, look, we can stick them together.
So you basically have this thing called meld or whatever it's called, fuse, and you can, it's not everything, but you can link a lot of shit together, and it's emergent, and you don't know really what you're going to get at first. So now look at this. He's got a hammer. Check it out.
We created
and
a
it has
makeshift
better
hammer.
Stats.
This is called fuse. You can stick
now watch
objects
him beat the
together to
fuck
create new
out
weapons
of,
with various effects.
Out of these guys.
Let's take on another construct with this fused weapon. We're dealing with 2 of them at once. Oh, we beat one.
Right, look how much faster.
The weapon's
right?
attack is definitely
so it's active.
improved.
It's active crafting, right, Buzati? It's very, very, very cool.
The other branch broke, but this weapon has much better durability. You can do all sorts of things by
Watch this.
experimenting
Watch this.
with
This
the
is
fuse
super cool.
ability.
Watch this.
You can fuse 2
Watch this.
weapons,
This
for
is
example.
awesome.
If we take this long stick and fuse it with a pitchfork, we can create a weapon with a much longer attack range.
Isn't that awesome? So it's not just the fact that you can craft things, but like it's like, yeah, that affects gameplay. You get a big long pole, and then you get another big long weapon, and now you are safe from getting hurt, but you can still attack enemies. Check it out.
We don't have to get too close to enemies, and we can safely attack from a distance.
I mean, come on.
You can also fuse arrows with materials in your inventory. For instance, try fusing this leaf to an arrow.
I don't know what that does. They showed it to you.
Fuse an ice elemental material to an arrow and you can freeze faraway enemies.
I don't think you
Very
know.
useful.
I don't think you know if they're bringing
In
back dungeons or not, Morgan. They haven't said, have they? Yeah,
Let's
you can
see.
attach a lot more stuff.
There's a bird flying around. If you're out hunting, you might feel that aiming
So
with
you
an
can
arrow,
take the
there's an
eyeball
you
of a
can get by
monster, and
defeating
again, you
monsters.
got to kill monsters to get this stuff. So it kind of is a nice loop, right?
Fuse it to an arrow and
So now that gives you an arrow that homes to enemies,
look,
right?
it homed in on the target.
Come on. Okay, I'm gonna show you some other.
Let's try this
abilities
on
of
another.
guy. You can also put it on
I
a shield.
fused a mushroom to my shield.
You can fuse a mushroom
Now,
to your
you're
shield
probably
that when you
wondering if this
explode
has
it
any
creates
use.
smoke.
Well, this mushroom is actually a puff shroom.
So watch this.
Let's fight an enemy with this.
So when
I
he
blocked
hits
with the
it,
shield.
it
Okay, there's
confuses the
smoke
enemy
now.
because it's smoke screen.
The enemy's lost sight of Link, so attack.
Right? Kills him with one
Even
hit.
if you struggle
Now
with
look at this. Look at this. I'll show you a few more
something
things.
else could
Look at this crafting. Watch
get
this. This is
powerful
great.
weapons by defeating strong enemies. But in this game, fusing even the weakest weapon with something else could turn
If
it
you
into
want my response to some of your comments, just keep in mind, save them while I'm done showing you this, because I do want to respond to some of the ones I see going past, but I can't right now because I'm showing this off. So I'll get to them, but
a useful weapon.
so he made.
There are
watch
even
this.
more gameplay options for sticking things together. Let me demonstrate. Some of the Sky Islands even have rivers. We'll
I wonder
want
if
to
you can
cross
attach
this one,
enemies.
but swimming across it, well, the river's too wide
I'm very
for that.
impressed by this. I think it's
We
great.
need a boat. Of course, there isn't anything that resembles a boat around here. So
Basically,
we'll
you know
lift
what he
up this
does. He
log
takes the
and attach
logs,
it
he
to a
fuses them together with his new fuse power.
let's modify the shape
He
of the raft.
changes the shape of it.
Now,
He
if
puts
we
it in the
put this on
water and it floats,
propel it
but then he
forward.
goes and he finds some air vents that you
Found a
usually
fan.
use to jump up into
Why
the
don't we try
sky.
attaching it?
And he attaches the fan to the back of the boat,
We'll attach.
and now you've got a boat that you
All
can
right,
attach.
let's try moving the boat.
And so the number of things that you can play with
Hey,
and
it's moving.
try
It's
out
sailing pretty fast
while you're
with the wind from
playing,
the fans.
I think is going to lead to a really cool immersive.
Since we added two fans, we should be able to
experience.
cross the river in no time. From the start.
You can also
Instead,
fly.
You'll be able to
and
freely
create those
craft
fans so
them
you
on
can
your own.
fly. Like here.
So try crafting
Watch
different
this, watch
things
this.
and explore this world at your leisure.
Let's look at that. Come on. Come on now.
There are even more new abilities.
Look at this ability here. This is pretty
Take
cool
this
too.
building over here. Okay, watch this. Look,
So-
I passed right through the ceiling.
This is basically
This-
if there's a ceiling above you, you're able to pass through it. There are limitations,
New
but they
ability is
show you
called
a really cool
Temple.
example of
This
like
place has a
he's running into a cave, but if he looks up, there's a top to the cave as well. There's like a cliff on top of it, of course, as
temple.
caves have.
This place has are some
Here, check it
use
out.
it anywhere. Right above
Right
it.
there. So you can
If we
run
use the ability
inside
here-
the cave, and instead of figuring out how to climb the mountain to get to the top, which you can still do,
Come on. Keep going.
you can now basically go up through the
Okay.
roof, and now
We
you're in a different
emerged
part
at
of
the top
the
of the
map.
hill.
So, and there's more, and
In
they
the
were. This
previous
was only like a
game, you had to
10-minute
use-
demo, Look at this. The enemies can use them too.
I got pushed off.
The enemies can use
Looks like it's got
fused
some sort of
weapons too.
fan.
So he's got like a fan that I can also make, but when you use that, it pushes people back.
I got pushed off.
So anyway, there's more to it here, and this was a very short demo. I absolutely was entranced by it because this is the Nintendo that I love, right? This is the sort of like you play it and it feels magical because you think about, hey, what if I try this and it works? Now I know there are lots of games that do that now, from Bridge Constructors to Kerbal Space Program to there's a new Mars one coming out, but I've not yet seen that kind of gameplay. Like games, either like people in the chat were mentioning Singularity, or they were even mentioning God of War Ascension, which I love. I didn't play Ascension. I meant 3. I haven't played Ascension. But those either tend to be sort of scripted or kind of mostly canned, or you've got on the other end, you've got the kind of physics sandboxes, and those tend to be less about being on an adventure and more about just fucking around with the sandbox. I've not seen, maybe it exists, but I've not seen a game where you take the physics sandbox to this degree and you put it into this kind of narrative where you're actually on an adventure and you can solve things in lots of different ways. So, you know, I'm in. Hopefully it has the Dave Jaffe easy mode, says Mocha Chocolate. Thank you, buddy, for the super chat. You know, I appreciate that, man. Carlos, thank you, buddy. He says, I wasn't a fan of Breath of the Wild. Neither was I, but this actually looks cool. I agree. Randy G, thank you for the super chat. He says, this game looks kind of boring. Hey, to each their own, my good friend, but I can tell you, I think it looks awesome. Morgan does not like it, like at all. She's not interested in this here video game one cockadoodie bit. And that's fine. It has been a mixed response. There are people who are sort of taking the piss because, you know, they really like their graphics and next gen and cinematics, and people are like, when you go into towns, the world doesn't look populated. All that's true. All that's absolutely true. If that's what you're here for with this game, I get how it's not for you. But I think the gameplay looks really clever and cool. Radical Desi says the real-time dynamic object crafting, attribute adjusting, and potion ability modifications are really innovative, especially for the combat and puzzle solving. Every session will feel unique. What would be nice, in my mind, Matskista says, let's be honest. Thank you for being a member for 10 goddamn months, sir. I appreciate it. Let's be honest for once. It's DLC. Yeah, I mean, again, if you were looking for visual upgrades to be the trumpet call of sequel, then you're absolutely right. But that's, I can tell you, as somebody who had no interest in this game until less than 24 hours ago when I saw this, I'm now interested because of the gameplay. So, Zelda's always been about the gameplay, less about immersive lived-in worlds. You know what I wish, though, Ultra Awesome? You're right. But you know what I wish? And I know people are just taking, you know, the people that are having fun with it and taking the piss, but what would life be like? And maybe the answer is a lot less interesting. I don't know. But what would life be like if the response to this was not like Wooden's Throne? And he's not alone. There's a lot of you guys in the chat doing this. Nintendo fans will buy anything. They have the best software sells. Well, again, I'm a Nintendo fan. I don't buy anything. I haven't bought a Nintendo game in over a year. But what if the response to this from people that didn't like it was not to shit on it, but to go, oh yeah, that doesn't look like it's for me. And I know that's most people, but on the internet, it's just like, why does this have to be crap? Why does this have to be shit? Right. Spectre Bull says, what would life be like if we all just admitted, oh, that's not for me? It doesn't mean the game is bad. Right. 100%. Right. And I didn't even like Breath of the Wild, but I respect it for what it was. I respect a lot of people adore it. In Japan, they polled a large percent of people and they said that Breath of the Wild was the best game ever made. So, you know, it's not like what they're just wrong. They're just fundamentally wrong. There's one Game Pass game I want to play this year. It's Fupi City Skylines. I want to play that too. Saying I might though, but that's not a bad thing. .com says, Jaffe, you'll play this for 3 to 5 hours and drop it. I might, but that's because it would be boring. But I don't see myself doing that. But if I do, fine. Anyway, we'll move on. There you go. Don't get me wrong. I respect Zelda, says Sebastian. It would be nice to see modern day Zelda running on nice hardware. Well, they'll get to it. That's never been Nintendo's bread and butter. They don't care about that. They care about, I mean, again, why can Nintendo put out things that are quirky and a little bit different? Because they don't have to spend the money that Sony does, that Microsoft semi does, not anymore with Game Pass, to get the shit looking bleeding edge. And it's great, you love that, but I would rather have a company like Nintendo out there going, we're in it for the gameplay first and the experience first, because it allows us to be more free. Today, too many think if it's not good, it's garbage, says Bitrate. Levels don't exist then. I guess it's true. Hey, Eddie T has been a member for 29 months, our longest standing God of War member. Thank you, sir. He says, look, Nintendo are masters of gameplay. There's a reason so many of their games from decades still hold up. I'll take that over cinematic story any day. I will as well. Because if I want a big cinematic story, I can watch a movie. And if I want to play one, frankly, I don't need the graphics. You know, anybody who is I mean, all I can tell you, and I want to move on from this, but all I can tell you is that one of the techniques people use when they're trying to sell you a television, like at Best Buy, is if they show you a really good television, then they'll put that next to an even better television. So when you look at them side by side, you're like, well, of course, the more expensive one is the one that I want. But if you go in to shop for TVs and turn around the TVs around it and see, you'll be more than satisfied, right? It's just sort of comparison, right? The same thing here. Like, how many times have you watched a movie that you love on an iPhone, and then you've watched a movie in IMAX 3D, best of breed projection, but it's a boring fucking movie? You'd rather have the projection than the great movie on the iPhone? I don't know. Man Cave says Last of Us right now, back to the PC, Last of Us is sitting at a 33 review score for user reviews. Yeah, but that's, come on. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be great, it's going to be bad, but I definitely think that, user reviews, they're bombing it for a variety of reasons. Come on now. It's hard to believe that is actually a relevant review for that game. Why can't Nintendo do both? Nine Lives, give you great graphics and great gameplay? They can, but they would have to be like Sony in that sense, which is they would take less chances because the games would cost a lot more money, right? I would be worried if every video game company started to say the most important thing is visuals. That's what I would say. All right, let's move on. Today, CRIMEBOSS ROCKACITY comes out. Now, I'm this close to buying it. It's sitting at a 55 on Metacritic. Let's see if that has changed. As the launch of this show went, it was at a 55. Right now, it is still at a 55, only 8 critics. Most people say it's not very good, but most of the reviews that I've read on it, though, say it's got something underneath it that's kind of interesting and kind of cool, but it's just crap. The Gamer gives it a 4 out of 10. They say CRIMEBOSS is a game at war with itself. If you don't know this game, this is the one that has like Michael Madsen, Kim Basinger, Chuck Norris, Vanilla Ice, all the kind of 90s folks. It's a game with war itself. All 3 modes offer something, but none of them does their specific thing well. Meanwhile, the characters and writing surrounding the missions are stuck in 2011. Customization is limited or random. There are good ideas, says GG Recon, buried deep within this game, and the roguelike Payday combo is a genuinely novel concept. So this is one of those things that it's already shipping, I think, for $39. It's not that expensive, comparatively speaking. but you know, I ain't buying it. If I can get this for like $8 or $10, kind of like Wanted Dead, I'm interested. Because I like games that get beat up like this, because when they say, yeah, they failed in execution, but there's some interesting ideas, a lot of times you can learn a lot from that. One of the best things I did when I was designing God of War was I went out and rented from Blockbuster a bunch of really shitty 3DO games. Remember 3DO? They had one game that was like a Bruce Lee kind of kung fu. What was this thing called? 3DO karate game. I don't fucking know. It was terrible. Just utterly shit. But I learned so much from it, like what not to do. But there were still some interesting ideas in there. So, you know, I'm interested enough. I want to tell you guys about this. Now, give me a second. Let me settle. One moment. Hey, Morgan, by the way, there is a new game that came out, a demo yesterday, if you want horror on PC, called Demonology, that I'll be playing soon. It looks pretty cool if you're looking for horror. Okay. Gravity's been a member for 4 months. Thank you, buddy. Gravity played the Alien Rescue with us this weekend. He says, Jaffe, I just watched an episode of Dennis the Menace for the first time yesterday. It was so damn charming and well written. Is it just me, or has TV show writing devolved since the 50s? It's just you. I mean, I think if you did, most people say we're in a golden age of television, and I think that's true if you look at some of the classics that have been coming out over the last 15 years. Those older shows do have charm, and I think there's something very simple about them, in the same way that it's nice to sometimes just read, you know, a crappy airport novel, if you still read. A lot of people don't read anymore. But I don't think it's better writing. I just think it maybe scratches a different itch. It's kind of like going from reading a really heavy comic like The Dark Knight Returns or whatever it was called from Miller, and then reading like an Archie Andrews comic. It's like they're both do what they need to do, but they have very different goals, and I think they both achieve them. Okay. Listen. This is a book called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. It's about video game designers, and it's about the video game business. And it's on a lot of best of the year list of last year. It's being made into a movie. It's well researched in that. I mean, it references The Last of Us, and Neil Druckmann's in here, John Romero's in here. Like, they're real people in the world where these characters who own a video game company and sort of deal with their relationship over the years, you know, those people exist in their world as well. And it's good. It's not good in the way Ready Player One is good. Like, it's not a fun, exciting romp, but it's a grown-up book. It's like the kind of book, you know, it's a real novel if you're into such things. But anyway, so this comes out. A lot of game designers have been talking about it. Neil Druckmann tweeted about how great it was. Jeff Ross tweeted about how great it was. I think it's a really good book. It has some weird parts, but it's really fucking good. But anyway, something interesting has happened. This is in the Washington Post, not by our buddy Gene Park, but it's still in his paper. And it's interesting. So in the book, there is a game called, what do they call it in the book? It's called Solution. And the lead character is a woman named Sadie. And she designs this game. I'll read you the description of it, of the game. In the novel, Sadie makes Solution. It's a Tetris-like game taking place in a nondescript black and white factory that makes unspecified widgets. The The player earns points for each widget, but it's constantly interrupted by a text bubble, which informs information about the factory in exchange for points. Through this feature, players eventually learn that the factory belongs to the Third Reich and they can choose to slow or stop making parts. High scorers who dismiss the bubble eventually see a message calling them a Nazi. The idea of solution was that if you won the game on points, you lost it morally, she writes in the book. That's what the author, Zevin, wrote. Brenda Romero, who a lot of you guys know and should know, started designing games back in the Wizardry days. Her latest game, I think it was Empire of Sin, which I played on stream. I enjoyed very, very much. She is one of the lead producers at Romero Games out in Ireland. Well, she's got a bone to pick with this book because later on in the book, it goes on and references all of the video games. Eco is in there. Like I said, The Last of Us is in there. It references all of its sources. But it doesn't reference Brenda's game, her sort of most famous game, which is called Train. Okay. So if you look at the screen, this is Train. Train is a physical game. There's one copy of it made. Only about 150 people have played it. But it basically is about putting these little people in these cars and getting them to this location. And it's only at the end of the game, of course, you realize this is a analogous, or it's a metaphor, not a metaphor. It's basically the Holocaust. You're putting Jews in the cars and putting them to the camps. Okay. And she's like going, what's weird about this is that the book itself is about how the world sees contributions to video games. And she writes in a Twitter post that Zevin, the author, had drawn on the ideas and structure of Train without acknowledging the inspiration. A theme in the book, writes Brenda, is how women struggle to get credit for their work. And yet Brenda is not getting any reference. Tomorrow does include a notes and acknowledgement section. She references real games, even when it was implausible that the characters would have accessed them. She cites the books that she used to research game culture in the 90s and early 2000s and names half a dozen games. Neither Romero nor Train appears in these pages. She's acknowledged she played Train, or she knows about Train, but she refuses to acknowledge it. When they reached out to the publisher said, yeah, she didn't have to. And it sounds like, we're not gonna. It's weird. It's a little weird. You'd think a book this popular in a reprint, they would fucking correct that mistake. And I get it. It's her book. She didn't have to reference anybody. It shouldn't be a law or anything. She didn't rip off anybody and steal the intellectual rights. But it is kind of low rent when you have a novel, a great novel, that is basically all about people feeling slighted for people taking credit for their work, about women video game designers getting acknowledged, and all of this stuff. And yet she literally does what the villain of the book, which is no real villain, but the bad acting of the book does. It's kind of shitty. Anyway, that's happening right now. Okay. Well, there you go. Hey, Gavin, how are you, buddy? There you go. That's Gavin and Games. Now, I did say I'll stick around for a little bit. If you guys do want to talk about whatever you guys want to talk about, I'm here for you. That's the news of the day. I'll be back tomorrow, the 29th, with more Gavin and Games. I'll probably be streaming a game tonight. I don't know why you guys are seeing the stream at 720. I'm broadcasting at 1080. But I will check into it. I see that in the chat. But if you guys want to talk about pretty much whatever, games or politics, somebody had some politics stuff, I'm here for you. And we'll talk for a little bit. Then I'll see you later. I'm going to do some editing and streaming later tonight. And then I will be back tomorrow. Have I seen the Konami news? No. What is the Konami news? Lutrons, thank you, buddy. He get Bukaki Drive-By didn't even need it. This is so dumb. Thank you, Lutron, who gifted a membership to Bukaki Drive-By. Why YouTube makes it random, I don't know. It's so fucking dumb. It's like, just let Lutron say, I want to give it to this guy. The fuck would you want to do that? But anyway, yeah, no, I haven't seen the Konami news. Thank you, Lutron. What is, has Jaffe talked about the shooting yet and how police believe her trans identity played a major role in motivations? No, they don't. No, they don't. But I will talk about it if you like. Marcusor, out of the blue question, have you messed with PSVR 2? No, I haven't, because I have PSVR 1. I have all the other VRs, like, well, not all, but I've played with the HTC Vive. I have the Rift S, the MetaQuest 1, the MetaQuest 2. I'm good. Until they come out with a game that really sounds like, oh my God, then I'm not all that interested. CR3D, listen. The shooter of this tragic event yesterday. I mean, again, let's forget the fact that more kids are dead. Yeah, let's forget the fact that children, little fucking third graders are dead. And this isn't the first time it's happened. Okay? Let's forget, by the way, we're going to talk about whatever you want to talk about for the next couple minutes. So I get that's not for everybody. I appreciate that. But let's forget about the fact that all of the shootings that have happened in this country since Columbine were done by men who identify as men. At least the mass shootings, I believe, were mostly done by white people. And they were done, I think, by people who identified mostly as straight. And suddenly, you've got a shooter who is trans male. And that suddenly, surprisingly, becomes, oh, we have to talk about this. Really? And more importantly, doesn't it just sort of prove the trans community's point, which is, up until yesterday, according to some people, the only mass shooters in America have been men. Well, if this doesn't convince you that trans male is male, I don't know what will. It's just another guy shooting up people. Right? So, all 400 shootings since Columbine, says Psychotic. This is the one. And that's not true, Zeke. I saw that going around. It's not true. He says 4 recent shooters have been trans. It's not accurate. That is a false statement going around. You can look it up. People actually were saying the Colorado shooter was trans. The guy who dressed up as the Joker. Come on. There is, look, I really want you to do me a favor and ask yourself, how can you be comfortable after having hundreds of shootings, mass shootings in schools and public places, and you don't really say anything? Man, it's not the guns. I don't want to do any gun regulation at all. Maybe it's mental health, but what are we going to do about that? The minute a trans dude does something, see, we got to do something. Come on. I mean, can't you see how ridiculous that is? Can't you see how ridiculous that is? I have a question, says Sebastian. What's up, pal? Why do the school shootings always happen in America? Because do you guys have gun laws in Canada? There was a female high school girl shot up in elementary school in San Diego. Yeah, she said, I hate Mondays. I said, yeah, and it was not the early 90s. No, it was not. That was a 70s shooting. That's why I said since Columbine. Okay, so in Canada, well, he's saying there are shootings in Canada. I don't know. Do we know why this person did this, Sebastian? Why would you, I mean, I don't care, you guys. Look, what do you want? Let me just fucking say this. The number of you guys out there and girls or whoever you are, it may have been. Art says there was a manifesto and apparently the motivation was related to this topic. It may have been. It may have been, and she may have, yeah, I'll open the red phone. Sure. Hang on. I'll tell you what, I'm going to turn on the red phone. We can talk about whatever you want. I got to get a Coke. So let me turn on the red phone first. Let me get you the number. But again, this is now we've gone off the rails. We're not doing video game talk. I mean, I'll talk about whatever you want, but I just want you to know I do respect that. I hear you guys when a lot of people say, dude, I'm here for video games. So I always put this, if we do it at all, at the back, so you can know when it's time to duck out. Because I like talking about all this stuff. And I never get upset if, we don't have to agree on this stuff. We can debate and discuss and all that. But I know some people would rather never hear about it. And I appreciate that. I mean, sometimes you can be complicit by ignoring what's happening in the world. But a lot of times, sometimes people just want to fucking break from all the chaos. And I get that too. Psychotic Assault says USA isn't number one in gun fatalities. All I know is that the number one killer of kids and teenagers is guns in America. Whether or not there are other countries that are worse, I would not. What a horrible, what a horrible thing to have happen in your country. Then, hang on, I'm getting the red phone up. I'll be right there. Okay, let's see. I think I have it on the screen. Make sure this is the right number. 619. I don't know if that's the right number. Let me get you the right number. That is 619-752-0548. Okay. I will be back in 2 seconds, and then I'll take your calls and talk about whatever you want. Be back in a sec. Just got to get a drink. Okay, we're back. Red phone is on if you want to call. 619-752-0548. Talk about whatever you want, including this tragic topic. The killer wrote to her girlfriend before she did the shooting. I think it was a he. He said he wanted to die. I saw that. Yeah, terrible, utterly terrible. What do you No, Jizzaloo, it was not a she. It was a trans male. Let me speak to this for a second. Jizzaloop and John R and all you guys. And again, the trolls, I can't. One day Chat GPT will be able to filter out and say, that's a troll. Don't talk to him. That's not a troll. They're serious. I'm assuming for the sake of conversation, because I think it needs to be said, that if you're going to say something like that, I'll take it serious. Okay. And if you're trolling, haha, you got me. The number of people who are incredibly hurt and harmed by the trans hate in this country is so staggering to me. And maybe it's because I do have a front row seat, right? I see it with my son. I see it with his friends. You know, you guys, there is a cartoonification that happens on the left and the right that I think it would be in our benefit to recognize that we are being played against each other in order to make people and politicians more money, okay? Because the idea of a lot of people on the right who act as if the cartoon version of trans folks and trans supporters is the real version, it's incredibly harmful. Like this guy in the chat just said, what was his name? John. He says, he was a female. Can we not just be objective? And I think what he's getting at is that he believes the cartoonification of people in the progressive world that says, oh, we literally don't think or acknowledge that these trans folks were born and assigned at birth the sex that matches their genitals. I get it. My son, who is a trans male, gets it. Do you think he's not aware he was born and assigned as female? Of course he's aware. Okay? Not acknowledging it or not misgendering or not dead naming is not because, as many would have you believe on the right, or in the right media, I should say, that we just are like, we're living in a fantasy world. We're a bunch of fucking idiots. What? It's that we know that that is harmful and cruel and mean to people who are suffering with gender dysphoria or morphia. I get those two mixed up. Okay? Do you think as a parent of a trans kid who has tons of trans friends, you think I don't know the science that is available? You think we haven't talked to doctors and therapists and all kinds of different people? But you guys would rather believe that people like me, who I have given you no reason to think I'm a bad parent ever, would rather think that I'm just like so disengaged from my son's life that when he opened up to us and found the courage to open up to us about his experience, which I don't have experience with, you would rather believe that I'm just like, okay, here's some scissors, let's start cutting things off. Right? I mean, come on. Do you really think people out there are like that? And developer, I'll tell you one more time, if you misgender my son one more time, I'll ban you. And that's all I can do to you. That's all I'm saying. Jizzaloop, that's not the point, man. Are you a smart guy or are you not a smart guy? Okay? God forbid he says we misgender a school shooter. It's not the point. The school shooter's a piece of shit. This individual, whatever you want to call them, I will call them the male that they are, is a piece of shit. Literally, this is a person who knew beforehand that they were going to die that day. I'd love it if in America they could have walked into a hospital and said, 1 order of euthanasia, please. And that's how they went out. I got no problem with that. A lot of people do. But that's irrelevant. They're a piece of shit. But that doesn't mean, though, that it's fair to take the whipping post or the whipping subject of the wedge political issue of the trans movement, which is you're being played just like the left is being played on a lot of shit, and go, let's make this a center point of the conversation about this shooter. And what you really should understand is there are all kinds of people who watch this show. Not a lot of them, but I'm grateful for every one of y'all. But there's a lot of people who watch the show. And some of them are trans. Some of them are kids, maybe. I don't make content for kids, but I can't control that. And all you're doing is picking on a group that is so vulnerable and such easy targets. It reminds me of like in high school when the big jocks wouldn't pick on the guys that could fight back. They would pick on like the smallest little geeks and act like, it's like, my grandmother could beat the shit out of that kid. You know, what are you doing? I just don't know why you want to be that cruel to people. Called, thank you, buddy. I appreciate the super chat. He says, respect. I don't have the front row seat on the issue you do, but I have empathy and do treat people with dignity and respect. Absolutely. Thank you for the super chat, and thank you for saying that. I get it. This stuff is coming from the right. It is. But look, and the banning of the books is coming from the right. I'm not saying the right's been pretty active lately. But I'm not an idiot. I understand why Trump was successful in 2016. I understand that the left made the right feel like a bunch of fucking idiots and that they weren't permitted a seat at the table and that they were stupid just because they didn't live on a coast. And they deserved to have their asses handed to them in the elections. They deserve to be thought of as assholes because that's how they made them feel. And that's ridiculous. That's cruel. It's not just left. It's not just right. I don't know. It makes me really sad. It makes me really fucking sad. Darth Nugget, what do you think is coming from? I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not arguing with you, but can you be specific on? Darth Nugget says, I disagree. It's coming from both sides. What aspect right now in this kind of political shitstorm that's happening in America do you attribute or associate with the left? Legend says the problem is society not accepting people. You do have to change to be you. Everybody and everything is special to someone. Respect. Yes, of course. Of course. Elise Shome, thank you for following, buddy. Elise Show Me. The internet has made it possible for everyone to constantly speak what's on their mind. I think that's fine. But why do they have to be so fucking mean and misinformed? Why can't they just go, oh, you know what, Jeffy? You have experience with this. Yeah, I listened to I want you to think about this for a minute. There is a guy, I don't know, there are many people, and there tend to be guys, but there are many people that go on talk radio or television or whatever, and they will tell you that us progressive parents with trans kids we're doing this for attention. We're doing this for virtue signaling, all these things that are just like, when you really think about it, it's kind of like, what kind of person would do that, right? You're more willing to believe that we, as parents of trans kids, exist in that cartoonified definition than you are to go, oh, wait a minute, this guy makes a lot of money by keeping people divided and keeping people in conflict and keeping people riled up. But you would rather go, I'm the bad guy. or the trans kid is the bad guy. But your hero is the guy that's basically telling you things that you can follow the money and recognize he's making money or she's making money by keeping you angry. I mean, I don't get it. I want Jaffe to answer me this, says CR. Why is the trans community so overwhelmingly expressed by one generation if there is no outside influence? I don't mean to be a dick, but that's ignorant. Trans people, just like gay people, have been part of the human race since the very beginning, okay? The internet, in its wonderful ways, has brought acceptance because people have been able to find their tribe. They've been able to find their people. And this generation is the first generation, Gen Z, that came up from day one out of the womb with a fucking iPad or an iPhone shoved in their fucking hands. Okay. So it never occurred to this generation that there wasn't somewhere they could go online to find people that got them, that understood them. And in that community, you find strength, right? It's one of the reasons, again, I don't want to speak to, I certainly don't want to speak to the trans experience, and I certainly don't want to speak to the black experience. I'm a white cis het guy talking about it based on just stuff I've read and know. So I could be, I'm not trying to be an expert. I'm not trying to educate people on that world. It's not my place to, first off, and I'm not smart enough to. But as I remember reading, it's one of the ways that the slaves in America were controlled. They split families up so there wouldn't be that sort of strength of your own tribe, of your own connections that would motivate people to fight back. So the idea of this younger generation, they just find each other because it's easy. You go on Discord, you go on YouTube, whatever. In the 80s, when I grew up, there wasn't one kid. Think about this. There wasn't one kid at my school that was out as gay. Do you really think I just happened to go to a school with no gay people, including my brother? There certainly wasn't a kid at my school that was out as trans. Why? They didn't exist back then? So you're more inclined to believe the reason trans kids exist in the number they exist today is because they've been groomed to a kid is groomed to be trans, which is put upon, picked upon, abused, murdered in a very high rate compared to a non-trans person, comparatively speaking. I'm not saying in general. But somebody doing a drag performance is enough to make that kid go, yeah, but I'm trans. You think that's more likely? Or it's more likely what I just said, that there is communion now because of online and these people have connected with each other. I mean, all these things that a lot of people take to assume parents of trans kids are the bad guy, or trans kids or trans adults are the bad guys. You have to really believe in a highly mentally photoshopped version of a human for that to be true. Especially, it's weird because there is a very clear explanation for all this, but you choose not to believe that. And I would question why that is what I would say. Two-Pad says, I do think society in the younger generations are being trained to treat the community as sensitive and special, which probably won't do well in the future. I don't think they're, what evidence do you have of that? I think the younger generation is, they've got problems like every generation, but I think they are more, they are kinder. I do believe that. But Mr. Rob says, I don't think groom may be encouraged by other trans kids. I mean, what kind of Rasputian mind meld do these little kids and teenagers have? What kind of power do they have to say, hey, you know what? I know you know. Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop. Alexa, shut the fuck up. I know you know that if you're going to be trans in this world, you're going to get the shit into the stick right now in our culture. But you know what? My ability to sway you to get on hormones and wear a binder and have top surgery or bottom surgery, that is incredibly powerful. It's like the fucking Jedi mind tricks. I mean, what? They don't. Mr. Rob says, I believe in letting kids do what they want, but why do they go full I'm trans right away? Well, because that's what they feel. And maybe they are and maybe they're not. And that's why most parents in most states are like, well, look, okay, you're trans, great. But here's the process. You see a couple of doctors, you see some therapists, you see them over the long term to make sure this isn't just a flight of fancy of a 14-year-old kid. And then eventually you check the boxes and you either make a decision for your child, which is, I have two choices. I can let them live in the pain, and trust me, I've seen it, and it's bad. The pain and anxiety that they live in, especially as they're growing up in those formative years, pretending to be something they're not, or that they don't feel, which is their assigned at birth gender. Or you say, you know what? You know, we're going to take it slow. We're going to take it a step at a time. And you know what? Maybe they will. Maybe out of all of them, maybe 2% will revert. Life happens. Life happens. Oh, well. You think these kids don't know that going in? Of course they do. Of course not. Fupy, the majority of people who transition don't do it for social media fame. Yeah, it's a much bigger picture. That's absolutely right. Nobody's talking about sexual preference. Ghetto God, this is part of the problem. Gender is not sexuality. Nobody's talking about their sexual preference. What does whether you are a male or a female have to do with sexual preference? They are different things. They are different things. No kid should have a permanent change to them unless it affects their health. It does. Do you know the suicide rate of trans kids is so high, not because they're trans, but because they are shamed? I know a guy who has a sister. I mean, if this doesn't break your heart, I don't know what does. Maybe you don't have one. The guy has a sister. He still lives at home with his parents. And the sister came out as female trans, woman trans, and she was kicked out of the home. She's barely 18. She was going to go to college. They're not paying for that now. She's living in just the shittiest of conditions, and her family won't speak to her. That's their child. Right? And the idea, Sebastian, again, I need you to understand this. I don't need you to, but I wish you would at least open your mind to it, because I hear this a lot. Sebastian says, I think transitioning surgery should not be allowed to the age of 25 when the kid has their brain fully developed. Well, first off, if that's going to happen, then nobody should be able to go to war until they're 25. But that said, let's move that aside for a moment. The thing you have to understand as a dad of a trans kid, and as a dad who genuinely has great affection for my son's friends, many of them are trans, what you have to understand is the scenario that you paint in your mind is of a parent like me and a kid coming home and going, hey, Dad, I'm trans. And me going, interesting. I respect that. Let's wait till you're 18 or 25. And then you can do what you want, but your brain's not formed yet. Okay, champ? Sure, Dad. Thanks. I appreciate you being understanding. I'm going to go, you know, whatever, play with my friends. That's the image you have of it, right? That's not what these kids are going through. imagine waking up every day and feeling you're in the wrong body. It's hard to even imagine. The best way it was ever presented to me is, as a man, imagine waking up and going, you have tits. And you're like, these aren't mine. And at first I'm like, oh, I'd play with them all day. But then I'm like, okay, but imagine they're on your back. You can't touch them. They're just there. And you're like, that's not me, right? So imagine that first. And then imagine going through junior high and you're developing in high school and everybody's dating and everybody's figuring out who they are and their best looks and how they carry themselves with confidence. And you feel so disengaged from your body and from your experience as a living human. It's my understanding is it's miserable. It is heartbreaking. It is depression creating. And it is so depressing for many of these kids, they never come out of it because they end it, right? This idea of just saying, come back when you're 25 in a vacuum, that works. But it's not in a vacuum. See, Legends, Legend says, just go be a kid and play how you play. Kids see media and let them dictate their minds. No, they don't. The idea, if you're talking about a 6-year-old, okay, go play. I think there's look, I would have no problem with this law. If somebody said, look, until your kid hits puberty, they can't really they can wear a binder. Well, they wouldn't need a binder. They can identify and dress as whatever gender they want. But once they begin to develop into adults, there are steps a child's parents must take. X number of months of therapy, X number of visits to general practitioners, this, that, and the other, before steps can be cleared. I have no problem protecting kids from irrational decisions. But you guys are painting so many of these experiences like 95% of these kids are, they'll grow out of it. That's not true. It's simply not accurate. And you don't have the data to back it up. And you don't have the data, but you are still willing to publicly say something that is harmful to people who are actually going through this. We don't know the long-term effects of anything. Suddenly Bill Bone says we don't know the long-term effects low testosterone could have, whatever. We don't know the long-term effects of the COVID vaccine. We don't know the long-term effects of a lot of shit. Suddenly, though, we care about girls' sports and we care about long-term effects of medicine. These are very convenient things to sort of stand on, soapboxes to stand on, to act like that's why you're really bothered. Come on. Your behavior is not consistent with someone who's genuinely bothered by that particular issue. It's simply the fact that you are uncomfortable or don't like or don't get people who are different than you are. And it's a good point. Cyclown says we do, however, know the long-term effects of bigotry. So anyway, John Ray, I've already explained it, and I think you've been here. If you say any reason why trans kids' demographics have exploded over the last 10 years, you haven't been listening. I answered that, and it's a very obvious answer. I'm not hand-waving legitimate concerns, PlayStation, for the win. What I'm saying is that the concerns for kids who are trans, those concerns, we see the ramifications all the time. The concerns for a medicine that gets used without a testing amount that you would be satisfied with, that happens all the time and nobody says anything mostly. It's a big social, think about how dumb what you're saying is. I don't think it's just more kids coming out. It's a big social trend to be LGBT. it may be a social trend to say you are. You think it's imagine. I mean, just think about what you're saying. The frequency of kids that would rather take medicine, be a community that is absolutely shat upon and murdered at higher rates than not their community. But it's a social trend, so I'll do it. I'd love to answer the red phone. They keep hanging up. They call, and I reach for the button to answer it, and then it hangs up. I'm happy to answer it. It's Chaffee. What's up?
Hey, man. I'm calling from the UK.
Hello, Governor.
So, yeah, I've only just started watching your stuff, and, yeah, really interesting. I just wanted to say that... Can you hear me okay? Yes, I just wanted to say that, to me, when I see society and how they react, I'm seeing, like, the stages of grief and the idea that there's, you know, this denial, this anger, and I think it's time for us to just get our heads around the idea that we're not all conforming to these molds that we presumed that we were going to kind of stick to. And I think that when we start allowing ourselves out of those molds, we start realizing a little bit more about ourselves.
Can you give me an example? Can you give me an example of these molds, just so we know what you're talking about? What molds do we assume we're going to fold ourselves into?
I just think that, you know, if we're talking about when I was a kid, like, you know, let's say 25 years ago, the idea of male, female was it, really. You know, like
for most people, right. But to be fair, there were trans people, but they were deeply closeted.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm saying that was a social mold, and I think that the fact that we're able to break out of that now, you know,
I agree.
That gives us the opportunity to understand it.
I absolutely agree. I think the fact that, to me, and maybe it sounds like you, the response should be, oh, hey, cool. Kids are exploring. Kids are willing to explore some sacred cows like gender. We never would have thought of that. But that's pretty fucking cool. Yeah, who cares? Yeah. Go make the future yours. Why are we so fucking worried about it?
That's it. That's basically the bottom line. What I was going to say as well is, I don't really know why people are so angry about someone else just being who they are. And I know that's easy for me to say, you know, like, but I just think that it's just a lot harder to fight something that is natural when you could spend a lot more time just getting on with your own life. And you know, unless it's directly affecting you in a horrible negative way.
But I mean, but that's really it, though. That's really it. Is I think there are people who monetize the conflict and monetize the anger and monetize the divisiveness. And in that, the people who tend to really go for it are probably people who I mean, think about, they don't have a lot going on in their lives, probably. And that's not like, I'm not trying to sort of other them and like, yeah, they're losers. No, I feel for them. But it's like, you know, I don't need you to parent my kid. If you have a kid and you don't believe that you believe all of the social things are the cause of the rise of trans kids, and your kid says they're trans, and then that's great. You deal with your kid the way you want to deal with your kid. But when did it become okay for these people to think that it's okay to legislate the way I raise my children?
Yeah, that's bullshit, man.
I agree.
That's bullshit. But that's what I mean about the transition. That's what I mean about the transition, though. You see, like on the same side, I'm not trying to take sides. I'm just giving you my opinion and take it or leave it. But like, you know, we're talking about social molds and we're talking about our opinions, and we can basically say, okay, we're pretty aligned. Great. But we also have to understand that for some people, it's really hard to transition. It's quite scary, you know, change, like you mentioned before about tribes and all the rest of it. Part of that, you know, if we're looking at the pyramid, you know, when we look at tribes and that social safety net, it's like for you to break out of that is unsafe, which is going to make you feel anxious and it's going to make you feel uncomfortable. So that transition, to a certain extent, I mean, I don't agree with this ignorant. Some of the shit that I've been hearing there is ignorant, but like there's some stuff where that ignorance is a product of fear because they don't really know how to get their head around it, you know? And I think it takes time. And I think for as much as it's all right for some people to be a little bit further down the path, it's also about, I mean, you were saying some of that stuff, man. I mean, like, you know, just trying to bring people along, you know, to understand a little bit more about it rather than just kind of like casting them aside because they're not forward thinking or you know, like all the rest of it.
I just wish though that while they were coming down the path, they would understand how absolutely cruel and mean and affecting they are to people. They're really hurting people and they really don't
100%.
They don't seem to care about that. And it's just like I don't understand why, you know, I like to joke around with people, but I don't ever want to actually hurt someone.
No, but like it's done on, I think for your side. I mean, I haven't I'll be honest with you. I mean, look, I know you from God of War. I'm you know, I don't want to get into that side of it because we're talking about something different, but like, you know, I admire your work and I've just started going onto your channel. I can see that it's pretty broad and varied on the kind of things you're talking about, but like, what I really appreciated about this and why I wanted to call in is that, you know, you're not just shutting people down, you know, like I think that's a lot easier, you know, and I think that.
Well, it's not only a lot easier, but it makes you more money. I mean, it's easy to be the guy that's like, you're a fucking moron. Did you hear Jaffe today? He totally laid into that fucking right wing motherfucker. It's horrible. Who wants to do that? I mean, some people, but not me.
I think that. To that argument that you just said there, and I will leave it because I know I'm sure there's other people who want to call in as well. But I just wanted to say, you mentioned there about, you know, hurting people. And I think that you've just given a perfect example of someone who has an opinion that, for example, I agree with, just as an example, but comes across in a hurtful manner. In a way, it's just as destructive as someone who is on the opposite side of the you know, the coin, and they're having a go at the person who's trying to be forward thinking, and they're shutting them down in that kind of way. You know, like, so I think it's about finding that balance, even if you're not all the way there.
Yeah, and if we want to find an enemy, let's fucking go after the fucking politicians and corporations and media that makes a lot of money making us hate each other like this. I mean, they're making you can literally draw a path on Twitter from the tweets that enrage to money going into someone's pocket. And we instead choose not to see that and not to dismantle that. We choose just to keep trying to beat the fuck out of each other. We're just a bunch of fucking idiots as a species. We're morons. All right, buddy. Thank you for the call and thank you for watching the show. I appreciate it, man. All right. Brett Williams, thank you for the super chat. My opinion, very, very kind, buddy. He says, my opinion of someone's lived experience is worth less than used underwear from Goodwill, and everyone else would be good to remember that. Okay, let me do this again. My opinion of someone's lived experience is worth less than used underwear, and everyone would be good to remember that. Alexa, stop. I don't know if I understand. Are you saying that if someone tells you this is my experience in life as, you know, a black guy living in Alabama or a trans person living in Idaho, that you have no value for that? Because I don't understand. I'm not sure I understand that, your statement. I'm sorry. Politics won't allow unification. It doesn't benefit any of them. That's right. But we should be smart enough. My opinion of their experience is worthless. Oh, your opinion of their experience. Right. Exactly. That makes total sense. I get it now. Yeah. Right. Who am I to fucking tell you? Who am I to tell, you know, anybody? But certainly someone of an orientation or a gender or something that's not mine or a race, who am I to fucking tell anybody that they're wrong? That's what pisses me off maybe the most things, Brett, is that people will come to me and say, it's like Legends, everything I've said today hasn't swayed Legends one bit. Legends still is comfortable typing, we live until 60, 70. We live a little longer than that, thank God. And want to decide everything in the first 15 years of your life. That's ludicrous. No one is saying that. Right? What I'm telling you is my experience with trans kids is if they are in the closet or they are shamed because of what they feel, and they are not allowed to express that in whatever way their parents and their doctors and their therapists work with them to find the right path for them, they are living a miserable life. And if you think living a life, assuming you even survive and you don't take your life when you're that age because it's so miserable, if you think those wounds, those psychic wounds don't stay with you and affect the rest of your life, I just think you're wrong. And so no one, you refuse to not paint this as anything other than a black and white cartoony experience. Do you understand that I'm not a black and white cartoony guy when it comes to my children? Do you think I was just like, whatever you want to do, man. Chop shit off, attach shit, whatever you need. Just give me a Diet Coke from the fridge. Right? It was a big deal to figure out how to navigate this part of being a parent. And instead of you going, yeah, man, I hear you. I don't know what the solution is. There's a lot of solves I don't like, but yeah, I've not gone down that road before. And so as long as you're not being reckless, you know, and there are some guardrails in place, hey, go for it. That's what the response should be. You think I think people who go to church and seriously believe in Jesus or Moses, not Moses, Yahweh or whatever, you think I think they're crazy. But you know what? They have something in their brains that's either a spiritual gene that I'm missing, or a connection to God that I'm missing, or an idiocy that I'm missing. I don't know what it is, but I don't know. But I know there's lots of people that believe in this stuff. And so while I think there are some guardrails we could put up to prevent religion from harming people, I'm not going in acting like I want to take all your shit away and take your freedom away. Yeah, Legends, I totally throw a jab at God or Jesus, because I think it's ridiculous. But I also go, I'm open-minded enough to know that when you've got all of these people believing it, is it possible I'm more evolved and I'm one of the fewer ones that are evolved? Maybe. That's fun to think. That makes me feel good about myself to think it. But is it also possible that I'm the aberration? That I'm the minority, that most people believe in this and maybe something happened to me along the way where I missed out on that. And that's a loss for me. I don't know. So why can't you just be okay going, man, that's got to be hard for those parents and that kid. Let's move on with my day. What am I dealing with? But, you know. All right, fellas, there you go. Gabbing Games. Most of this was games. I hope you recognize and appreciate that. This is not a political channel. Every time you come here, it's always going to be games when we run a show. But at the end, I can't promise where it's going to go, but I'll always let you know when the off-ramp is coming up. So I appreciate it. Ricardo, I will go tonight. Like I said, I will respond to your very kind DM. Legend says, is it possible bad people could be using something good for their own nefarious purposes? Yes, every day of the year, every day of the week. But I hope you had a good time talking about all this nonsense. I will be back tomorrow with new Gabbing Games. I'm probably gonna be streaming a game tonight. Not sure, but we'll see. In the meantime, hey, go get your Day One Patch Kid shirt. Come on now, you can be just like your Papa Jaffe. All right, fellas. I'm out. Be well. Thanks, mods. Thanks, super chats. Thanks, new members. I will see you guys very soon. Eddie J, next Pot and Popcorn. Let me think about it. Hopefully soon. All right, fellas. Bye, all.